Here it is, the 2022 Sizzix Christmas release, and there is a lot to go through, a lot to cover, a lot of inspiration. So I want to take you through, I'm going to talk about the dies and the embossing folders individually. I will also share kind of the packaging sample so you guys can see scale. I'll try to answer questions that way, and then we will get into the makes. But I think it's important for you to understand the release before we get into the makes themselves, right? Fair enough? Okay. So I've got them in some type of order. I'm not going to say it's a significant order because it really isn't, but I did have at least some type of, I don't know, some type of order in my brain that I wanted to do to go through these. I think I'm going to actually put them in a basket. There you go. See that? That's going to help me. Maybe I'll even put them here. I'll see if I can grab off camera as I go, and we'll go through the release one by one. And talk about it. I believe there's 14 SKUs in this release, and I think this is going to be really a well-rounded release. Of course, as always with any releases, definitely incorporate what you already have, right? Just because if you don't have anything new, don't think you can't make because you don't have anything new. But it is nice to know that there is some new stuff that you could certainly use with the everyday releases of Sizzix, and of course, any of the former seasonal releases, all right? So our first one, this is Bold Text Christmas, and you've seen throughout this entire year we've done the Bold Text series, right? We did Bold Text in Chapter 1, we did another launch in Chapter 2, we did them for Halloween, and we did them for Christmas. And I think if you have them and you've used them, you would see that they really are nice. I think that that's really very cool to have. The whole idea behind working with a bold text is that you can have this cutout, right? And you can also take these and pop out the letters and have the individual words. And you'll see from the makers many different ways that the makers could use that, okay? So the cool thing about bold text, of course, is that they are text dies that already have one piece, that frame. So when you use it on thicker paper, you are going to get that nice debossed edge. I happen to like that because we incorporated these by design. And a shout out to Lisa at Sizzix. She is the one that I work with at Sizzix to design all of these SKUs, and she really rocked it. I mean, you'll see from these designs just phenomenal detail that we did in so many things. But yeah, these are really cool, and you'll also see just some unique ways that the makers have used it as well by just choosing certain words, because if you're using the positive letters, you don't actually have to use the entire cutout unless you want to, all right? So that is Bold Text 1. I think I'm going to stack these. I don't know. I've got to figure out a little system here, and then when I do, I'll be all right. I think I'm going to work from the front to the back. There we go. All right, this next one, this is Modern Festive. Now, Modern Festive is just kind of that cool modern vibe when it comes to a design, right? Earlier we did this Modern Floral. You guys remember that? This was earlier this year. We had these cool flowers, almost kind of painterly, not necessarily brushstroke, just a bit of a modern vibe. So Modern Festive is to scale. So if you have this, you actually have some more greens. Some of these, of course, this could be a poinsettia, but this could be a different flower in springtime, right? This little orange slice, this could be a lemon or a lime, maybe in the summer if you're going to do some sort of beach or cocktail. These pieces right here, obviously they're pine, but they could be cut out of different colors throughout the year. I'm not quite sure what you're going to do with pine cones. Maybe you'd make a pineapple. I'm not sure. Maybe you'd put that with that. Who knows? But they are to scale. So if you have these, it was, you know, not only providing a festive release, but also just something a little bit different, a little more unique that would be great to use on Christmas cards, especially if your style or taste is a bit more modern, right? Or a bit more abstract or a bit more artsy or bold. So I really like the aesthetic of these designs. I think it's really important when I go and look for art to license for the dies. I'm always trying to find different styles, things that, well, one, would work as a die cut, but two, would also have just a great appeal for different styles of makers, right? That's the other thing that I really like about designing, is that because I don't draw anything and because I don't have to commit to one specific style, because, you know, if I was drawing, I would probably only draw a certain way. I like that I can to seek out different designers and see how, like this one, a style, and really change it up. So this is Christmas Cutouts. And what I like about this one, this really has a very cool kind of Nordic, very paper cut style you've seen in the past. I've done a lot of different types of cutouts. I think that's really important to remember, that if you see a style and you're like, oh, I think I have a background that matches, or a font that matches, or this, then definitely incorporate those. What's really unique about this particular die set, right? There are 16 dies in here. This is the scale. So you have these little houses, you've got these great kind of primitive trees, this moon slice, some stars, a little cloud, and then you have these words. And these words are set up many different ways. And this is what I love about a live, because I can explain in my head really what I wanted to do for a specific die set. Because sometimes when you see the packaging, you're like, oh, okay, it's got little houses and some words, all right? But here's a unique thing about these words, and did this little step out to kind of help you understand the dies and how they are in here, right? So inside the dies, you're going to see that there are these framelit dies, and there are framelit die for each word. There's going to be a word die, and then you're going to have all of your shape dies, right? So what that means is that the framelits will cut out these rectangles that you could use for other things. Maybe you're going to use them for stamping. Maybe you're going to use them for color blocking. Maybe you're going to use whatever. But each of these rectangles are sized for a specific word in the set, right? You can see that they go longer from joy to peace, right? Then you'll have the word die, right? And the word die is actually going to cut out the letters of the word, just the word itself. So if you were to cut out joy, for example, you would get these letters, and then that little star piece is going to fall out, or that little heart piece is going to fall out, or the star is going to fall out. Well, that's really a snowflake, but it could be a burst. And then, of course, for the A in peace, it is a tree. Okay, there's not an A in there. The tree is the A. That's it. All right? So if you wanted to, you could cut these out as separate pieces and layer them and create a raised effect, right? Cut these out. So keep this a solid, cut these out, use foam tape, and actually layer these for a raised effect. Or you can nest these dies together and create a cutout. And when I say nest together, it means that these particular dies, right? So let's just, I can usually recognize peace because it's the longest one, right? All of these dies are sized that if you were to take your framelit, you place it blade down, you take your word blade down, these will fit inside. So you can cut these out at the same time. You'd place it down on your cardstock, use a little bit of tape to secure this if you can. That's what I would suggest, some type of tape. Run it through, and then what you would get is this cutout option. Essentially, you keep that rectangle. You can see that slight deboss line. It's going to give you this cutout, which is great because this could be for a shaker window. This could be all sorts of different things that you want. And let's say you wanted a small word in a big frame. Could you do that, right? So could you put joy over here and then have this solid space? Absolutely, right? You do you. You couldn't necessarily put peace up there unless you just wanted a few letters. Maybe you wanted ace, I don't know. But the idea here is that you could also cut this twice, meaning you would do a cutout, and then you could just cut the words again, and then you could place a color piece of cardstock over that, cut it a third time, and then do an inlay, right? Where you take these pieces and instead of having them raised, you stick them down as an inlay, which is essentially kind of what I did here. So you have many options when it comes to working with it. And again, that's what I love about creating designs and working with Lisa, because it's like, hey, let's change this. Oh, we should do this. Oh, we should do this. It's really fun to bounce ideas as well, because again, you see on the packaging, this is it. But then when you watch a live, you realize like, wait a minute, I can just do the letters. I don't necessarily always have to have a box, but giving yourself options, especially if you're a shakety shaker, right? So you can create this great little shake window with glitter or sequins, or doing those, the inlay, especially with sparkly cardstock, even wood grain. This would look so good with wood grain if you did everything out of the same wood grain and put it back in, look, carved out of wood. Anyway, that's the Christmas cutout. So I think, you know, understanding these dies before we get into the makes will certainly help, I believe, you in seeing how the makers kind of work together on these, right? So this next one, Holiday Brushstrokes 3, the last of the Brushstroke series, because we've done a lot of different brushstrokes. Let me bring them in just to give you a little trip down memory lane. So this is the new Holiday Brushstrokes 3, and I love the style of brushstrokes. Very different than modern, completely different. This is really inspired from a watercolor. Lisa actually takes a watercolor, and so I licensed the watercolor, and then she'll take those different tonalities and shades and create that die outline to really give you the aesthetic. For packaging, I like to do color cardstock just to keep it simple, but this is beautiful if you cut this out of watercolor paper or white cardstock and then go in and do inking, do your pencils, do your blending, do beautiful things. So this is number 3. This was the first Holiday Brushstrokes a couple years back. I love this. I still remember the make that Sharon did, right? So this gives you those brushy pines, those leaves, those giant berries, those other leaves. And then we did brushstroke 2. That's going to be the pine cone, right? That little, could be kind of juniper-y, I think, in my brain, right? Little mistletoe-y, some berries. But then last year, like this was funny because like this wasn't really brushstroke to me. It looks very similar to this one, actually, if you kind of look. But then if you look stylistically, this really isn't as brushstroke because the lines are super clean, right? You can see around all the leaves. It was very clean. So this one's called Festive Bouquet. It works really well with these, but if you're being particular, aesthetically the lines are way cleaner than what brushstroke is. But hey, as a maker, I think we can mix everything up. But sometimes people are like, don't I already have this one? If you see the difference, see how all of these lines are kind of jaggedy and wonky, especially around the edges, right? The points aren't perfect and symmetrical. This is just a much bigger flower. That's going to be the difference. But to me, they all work well together. So if you have any of these, use them together. We tried to keep this one a little bit bigger in scale because then that would allow these initial pieces from number 1 to work in there. So I do like that. I agree. Mixy matchy, Zoe, right? It is. Mixing and matching these is what's really important because you don't need all of them. If you have even just a couple sets, it's going to allow you to go in and just be inspired. Anyway, I love this one. I love these pieces because I also think like that longer pine is very unique. This is more kind of flared out, and I love that little mistletoe. It's beautiful. All right. Then we get into a little bit of a retro vibe. Now for Halloween, I did retro Halloween, and when I saw this guy, I loved him because it just reminds me of like an old advert, right? An old advertising in like a newspaper or a toy catalog, right? Remember catalogs? So this is Retro Santa, and what's really great about him, first of all, the scale of him, right? He's like 3.5 by 3 1/8, roughly, so like 3 by 3, if you will. He's got definitely a cornered position, so he was designed to go into the corner of a card. What's also really unique about him is that he's very simple, 6 dies, okay? So there's not a lot of little fussy pieces, and I always keep that in mind, especially when I'm designing for Christmas, that some people want to really get in there and create those little layered pieces, and other people are like, look, I got 200 cards to make, and I need to go in and I want something that's going to be really quick. The other great thing about something that's bold like this is that you can play with color, right? You don't have to do any type of traditional palette. You can be as creative as you want with these. But the idea behind this guy, this Retro Santa, is the fact that his base, right, that base piece is the black layer. So that's the entire silhouette. Then you've got the red piece that's going to connect. Okay, so that's going to be layer 2. So all that whole red layer right there is even connected down here. So you've got a black layer, then a red layer, and then you just pop on these white pieces, right? So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Done. Okay, so this could be cut out of felt, this could be cut out of flocked paper, this could be raised if you wanted it raised. I mean, you can really do whatever you want. But nice thing about having it in the corner of a card, first, it really helps kind of help eliminate really where you're going to put things on a card. You're like, okay, there he goes. But he could be showcasing a word, it could be a stamped image, it could be another thing, or you could not put adhesive behind his hand and you could slide a gift card behind it, right? So if you're looking for a really great gift card, maybe you do a skinnier card, don't put adhesive here, and then he could be holding a gift card and that could just be given away. So just some cool ideas for this Santa, but yes, he has a very great retro vibe to him. I love the clean lines, and I love, of course, the whole idea of the reveal, right? So all those cutouts are what's revealing his expression, right? All those details. Very cool. I like it. I like different details. I think that part is important.
Someone
All right.
to make his hand a wobbler.
There you go. Yeah, he could be waving. Yeah, he totally could. Then, of course, as simple as Retro Santa could be, we also like the complicated, right? I love Colorize. I love to push the envelope on this. This one is, in my opinion, this is a stunner. I've always wanted to do a Colorize wreath. This is called Yuletide. It is very, very detailed, and you'll see this, but you're also going to see from the makers that you can use these components in many, many different ways, okay? Yes, you can build a wreath. The entire surface is a cutout. So you'll see, like on Colorize, you would start with a foundational die. That would be a full wreath. So you're not building it leaf by leaf. You have a piece to work on. But how detailed you want this to be is entirely up to you, right? How many layers you want. You don't have to necessarily go 4 layers up if you don't want that much detail. You'd still have a wreath. but you also have those layered berries. So each berry is 3 layers. You could stop at 1. You could just do the outline. Then you have this beautiful bow that is not attached. So it could just be a bow cutout that you could put on other things, right? Maybe you have, you know, a snowman from a previous year and you want to put a bow around his neck or on his hat, right? You've got this great Christmas bell, and I love those highlights. This is just done out of metallic cardstock. Again, I'm showing you this because when you see the makes, you are going to see some makers didn't even use the wreath of this die, right? They may have just used these components, or they may have just used some leaves, or they may have cut this apart and turned it into garland. Amazing. So just remember this one as we go through the makes, because there are going to be some things you're like, what is that piece? Never underestimate the power of a shape, right? Because sometimes we just get so caught up into the package that we really lose our way of the possibility of the shapes that are included in that particular design, right? So I do love this. This is about a 3x3 wreath, and that is called Yuletide. All right. Now this guy, I could tell already, he really is a popular one. I've seen just from the sneaks, and obviously from how the makers made, right? I always know when people do a lot of making, it's like, okay, they loved him, but I love him too. This is Colorize, and this is Harvey. I named him Harvey because I like to give things names that have a little personality, but I do like Harvey. He was inspired by the soldiers from Disney, right? I've seen those in the Christmas parade, and I love that whole Nutcracker kind of toy soldier. That was the inspiration initially. But then as Lisa and I were working on this, and I love the shape, I'm like, you know what? We can change a few things about this without actually changing the shape, and we can create other characters within this one die set, okay? So Harvey has the same base shape for all of these. So you're not going to get 3 base shapes. You're getting the same initial base. But what you can do to change it is the jacket, right? So you get some different jackets, and I'll show you the dies. So you can change up the style of jacket, right? There's also some accessories, whether you want to put a belt on, or whether you want to put this little cross piece on, or you want to put these little shoulder pads. There's a little mustache. If you want to do a mustache, you can do the feathers at the top or not, okay? This guy, so we've got that little kind of toy soldier, not necessarily a Nutcracker. I would say more of a toy soldier. You got that London Guard. I love that as well. Or like a band leader, right? I think that's also really great to use for people that maybe love music, right, in your family. There's these cuffs that you can put on, changing the colors, and it's really a great way that you can mix and match a die to give it personality. And so what I mean, it is like the Tivoli soldiers, Zoe, totally. So just so you kind of see, because it's colorized, right, the same thing with the wreath, once you get all your pieces out, you can identify like what's what, right? So red one, that always identifies to the packaging, kind of the main piece. But what I was saying about Harvey is they all start with the same base shape, and each base, although it's going to cut it out, it's always going to give you a little crease rule to show you where to stick the next layer on. So that also helps how you build it, right? If you cut out all the pieces. There's always videos on Sizzix YouTube channel with Colorize. You can also go to Sizzix.com, and there is a Colorize hub, if you will, a place that you can click, and it will show all of the videos of assembling Colorize. It's just kind of like this animation that you can pause and you can go back and rewatch. But all the pieces, so although it looks like a lot, not all these pieces are to build one thing, right? Meaning if you want to do a little face, you can. You've got all those little circles to do the cheeks, the eyes, the mouth, or you can just do the mustache, or you can do nothing, because that little notch is really his nose, right? Although it maybe looks like a smiley face, it's just kind of his nose cut out. And I love the reveal, right? Because by cutting out the reveal, you don't have tiny little dots to put on everything. The only dots that would be on his face if you wanted to do it. So I think Harvey is great, and certainly something that could be used year round. And you'll see from some of the makes, and you're like, what do you mean? Travel journals, just fun ways to incorporate this little character. And I like that as well. So speaking of different ways to use things, I love this one, layered plaid. And Lisa, if you're watching, she's probably rolling. Hello, Lisa. The amount of times that we revised this, and every single time Lisa was so patient, because besides figuring this out, right, I had this idea for a plaid, but I wanted a very detailed plaid. I just kept changing it. And every single time I did it, I'm like, what if we did this? And what if we did this? And she's like, okay, we'll do another. Okay.
Come on, that's tartan.
It is tartan, yes. Just a way to kind of change it and make it unique. And so here's the idea about this layered plaid. I love plaids, but I don't think plaid should be complicated, right? Some people want to build a plaid and go for it. If that's you, you do you. Me, I like even my stamps, like background plaids. I have a lot of different background plaids because I just want to be done with it. But here's the idea for this layered plaid. It's 3 dies, all right? And the 3 dies are going to give you a solid panel, because I feel that you don't always necessarily need to have your background of your plaid be the background of your card. In this case, for the sample, it is white, but you could have a background color, say green, and put it on a brown card. So I wanted to just give you that panel that you put it on. Now the panel, of course, because it is a piece, I wanted it just a little bit larger than the plaid itself. Again, that was another change that Lisa did last minute, where it's like, I think it should just be a little bigger, because initially they all stack symmetrically. I'm like, well, if we were going to do that, then the maker could just cut a piece of cardstock. But doing that, now you're going to get a little bit of reveal that allows me to ink something different than the background. Then you have a wide plaid panel, if you will. Now these panels, of course, cut to the outer edge. Doesn't leave anything suspended. It's going to cut to the outer edge, but it's going to leave a little frame where everything is connected. And then you also have a skinny plaid, and both of these plaid pieces are the same size as each other, so it allows you to build. And the great thing about this, honestly, and you're going to see from the makes how many different versions you can create is, so let's just say you have a panel, a card background, okay, whatever color that is. I happen to just do it out of white, so I cut that panel out of white. So when you're cutting, right, you can cut your pieces many different ways, right? So if I wanted a panel craft, I can do that as well. So I can take just the panel die and cut a bunch of panels. Now, if you're doing the panel, just a reminder, because I'm going to talk about precision base plate in a minute, this guy, just cut with your standard cutting pads. Never use a precision base plate or multi-passes with something like this, because there's not much framework to it and you will destroy your die. The other thing to remember when it's going through your machine, whatever type of machine you have, this is strictly for visual reference. Many people like to position a die like this on their cutting pads and feed it into their machine straight on. Denied. Don't do that, okay? If you do, the rollers are going to hit this and you're going to hear a clunk, because the rollers like go over a speed bump. So it's going to be boom. And then the rollers go right along this thing with all this pressure, and think of it as like curling ribbon. All that little pressure will turn this die into a banana, okay? Because you're putting so much pressure on this, and then you hear a second clunk. To eliminate that, take your die and angle it, right? Angle it on your cutting pad. If you have the switch, you can even angle it more, but you want to angle it this way. This is where it's going to hit the rollers, and you're not going to get that clunk. And this is just kind of distributing pressure very uneven across the entire thing, but it will ultimately provide great pressure to cut it out. So anytime you have a big die like this, especially a framelit, try to angle it, and that's going to keep from really bending your dies. If your die bends, I mean, you can just kind of gently try to bend it back, but I know it freaks your freak when you take it out and you're like, what the? Yeah, so just remember that. Just give it a slight little angle and you're good to go, okay? So this one you just use as is, but these guys, I have found that if you work with a precision base plate and multipass, especially on the skinnier one, it just cuts cleaner because there are a lot of little pieces to come out. So if you have that, I definitely recommend using the precision base plate single pass on this, and you can do a multipass on this one. And here's why. So when I cut this out, so for example on red, I cut both pieces. There, you can see they're distinctly different. And what's nice is that when you lay it out, you can just have this one. You're like, ooh, I like that one. So you could just use one of the layers. You can just use this layer, right? That's the whole idea of layered plaid. Or you can say, all right, I'll cut this out of green, so I'll put this one here, and then I'll take this red layer and I'll position it over here. So remember, these two are going to stack up, and now you have that layer. Now, if you don't like this design, right, maybe you want a little different amount of green showing, you can flip this one and you can invert it, and you're going to get a different pattern, right? See how now you have like more space in between there versus overlapping? And because you can change this, that means you can even introduce an entirely new layer. So let's just say it's metallic. So what I would do with metallic is, instead of having them matchy-matchy, I alternate the metallic layer, put it under the color layer, put that onto the wide layer, and then put that over the background. And now you even get accents of metallic under the plaid. So now that's 3 pieces of plaid on top of your panel. right? That's the whole idea with layered plaid. Layered plaid is you layering it however you want. So do you have to do 3? No, because that third is really just cutting this twice out of different papers. But you can see by offsetting it, this is why it was so important when Lisa and I were doing it, like just shift this line like just a couple of clicks, because then we're going to get just a unique drop shadow. It allows you as the maker so much more versatility, because plaid is not just Christmas. It could be Halloween plaid, it could be New Year's, it could be Mother's Day, Father's Day, spring, 4th of July. It could be anything you want, any color palette. So even if you wanted to do like a winter vibe, like look at these like minty colors with silver, right? How beautiful is that on the background? So we can start with, well, I don't know, we could start light or dark, but you can see all those little cutouts. And seriously, guys, look how skinny that paper is. Let me get my pork chop hands. Look at that. So see all those little cuts? This is why the precision base plate is really important, because you want it to cut clean so you can also take it out of the die, right? Because if you don't have a clean cut and you try to peel it out, you're going to be getting out that craft knife. So we've got this beautiful plaid. This one, also nice, right? And even though these are a little bit lighter, right? You've got a dark and a light, but I do think that throwing in the metallic, and what I do is I always like, okay, cool, it's not lined up, because if you do it this way, you're like, oh, I don't see anything. That's because it's lined up. So flip them opposite. And then layer this on top. Look at that. For winter. Fun. And this could also be those 2 layers you could flip around, right? Both stacked together and get a completely different plaid, because it just it's up to you really how busy you want it to be. Like to me, that's a little bit busier than this way. And I like that you can just stack them all up. Maybe if you had, run it through a Xyron or adhesive sheets, that's a really easy way to stack these, or little dots of glue, right? So that's good. You can flip the big plaid just like you flip the small plaid. It would be the same thing. So whatever layers you want to flip, you can just mix it around. And if you want to put the big on top of the skinny, you can do that as well, right? So if you want that bold to be on the top because you want the other ones to be underneath, you could do that as well, because maybe you want to put a sentiment strip or something going across your card. Possibilities, totally endless. And again, that to me is the benefit of watching a live like this, because all of those things that I say to Lisa when we're designing, right? Or like, look at all these ideas. You can do this and this and this and this and this. This package can't tell you that. It doesn't matter. Even if we did pictures, you'd be like, what is he talking about? That to me is what's really important about taking the time to watch these, whether you're watching it in its entirety or you're watching the replay. It is very valuable to go in and write yourself notes about this. And even maybe you want to put the notes with that die when you put it away. Because let's face it, out of sight, out of mind. You bring this out, in a couple weeks or a month to be like, what was I supposed to do with it? So if you ever watch a video, jot down some notes and stick it in with your die, whether you have it in your die storage envelope or just, you have it in a binder. It's really a good idea to kind of remember that. Because yeah, sometimes people look and they're like, all right, thanks, Captain Obvious, but I already have a plaid die. Don't need it. And maybe you still don't need this, but at least when you can see all these different ways, and I'm telling you right now that detail, that's ridiculous. I love it. And this, I'm using the Ideology metallic craft stock because it is a 100-pound metallic, and I love the contour that it gives. And of course you can sand it and scuff it and do all the cool things to it. Speaking of cool things, I love this next one. I do. This was one that I was like, I'm doing it no matter what. Even though the packaging you might look at it and be like, that is not exciting. I believe that it is. This is Colorize Bowtied. This is the scale of Bowtied, not this. So again, when you see it on the package, you're like, oh look, it's cute to be for a little gift tag. This is meant for something much bigger, much grander. This could be for an art panel. This could go onto a journal page. This could also go onto a card. I made it really big. This extends like 6.5 this way, 6 3/4 this way, because I wanted you to be able to use it like on a slimline card, on a square card, on an A2 card. You can build this bow however you wish. The great thing about Bowtied is that the die itself is really just these L's, and I'll disassemble this one so you can see what I mean, which is when you cut this out, okay, I'm going to take off the bow. The bow, of course, is a separate piece, so that could just be a cool bow tie, right? You can cut this out of, maybe you're going to do some plaids on a piece of paper, and then you're going to cut it out of the plaid paper that you made with your plaids, right? Make this and then cut this, or maybe you have pattern paper or stamps. But the bow itself is separate, and it's got these great colorized layers, right, that you can do the reveal. It makes it look dimensional, but it's flat, but you could certainly go in and shape it, right? You can use your shaping kit if you wanted to maybe shape this top layer and glue it in to give that bow a little bit of contour, right? Little shape. Then you've got these ribbon tails in two opposite directions, right? Again, they look folded, but they're not. They're just flat because all it is just taking that piece of paper, putting another piece of paper on there, and then there is really a darker. So it starts, let me see, there you go. I'm trying to get my light to cooperate. We start with the dark layer. The dark layer is the whole piece, and then you add a light piece and a mid-range piece. So there's three pieces just stacked, but they fit together, so it remains flush, but it creates a cool depth or dimension. I'm going to peel this one off. And then we have these, kind of the center idea for this. I didn't want long pieces because, again, what I just told you about running things through your die cut machine, if I gave you like a 6 3/4 inch long die and you're running it through, banana, right? We don't want that. So these are really just these L pieces. You get two of them. Can you see that break right there? Okay. So you get two L brackets, if you will, with different layers. So you'll cut the first one out of whatever color, and then you cut the second one and you stack them, and then you position them, right? So they break like right there. So you can decide if you wanted to make these shorter, you just cut them however you want. And then these tails, what make it nice is that, yes, you saw on this sample, it can go like this, but you also saw in the package that you can just put the tail in the opposite direction and you can have it go like this. So this could go on a box. It could go on a card that's a gift. It could be any of those things that you want, because for a bow, perfect for birthdays. This could be bright colors. It could be polka dots. This could go onto a heart at Valentine's Day. So maybe you have a big heart die, right? Take a heart die and put this on and it's going to look like a heart box, right? I love the idea of just having something simple. If you were doing metallics, you can make it look very elegant by just doing metallic or sparkly papers. And if you don't want these little ribbon tails, get these off. Yeah, I got adhesive sheets and it really likes to stick onto the cardstock. You don't have to have that, right? Or if you don't want these pieces on the side, you don't need that either. Let's get rid of this just for effect. I'm gonna get rid of that white cardstock. You could just take this and you'll see again from the makers that you might just create a large bow that you want to put on a wreath that you have, or maybe you've got a bunch of different leaves and this is going to be done with woven or with craft to make it look like it's done out of burlap or linen, right? There's a lot of different ways that you can use the die, especially this time of year when we like to do fall wreaths or Christmas wreaths or anything that we want, and we're always looking for a big bow. And let's face it, I've never done a big bow on a die because that bow, like on that little Yuletide wreath, it's always to scale with the element. I'm like, we just need to do a big old honkin' Bowtied. That's it. They're like, well, it's not very exciting. I'm like, it is to me because there's many ways that you can use it. And because it's colorized, it gives you so much more depth and dimension and detail just from a simple shape. But remember, I mean, it's seasonal. So if you're like, oh, I need to get that die, it's Valentine's Day and I didn't get that. Well, that's because it was out at Christmas. So really important to always remember, told you, never underestimate the power of shape. Never, never. Speaking of shape, I'd like to introduce you to Twig and Stump. Now, you may have already seen this online. These little characters, they're hilarious. I named them Twig and Stump because, well, Twig and Stump. I think they're very cute. But what the packaging doesn't tell you, again, is all the things that you could do with this die set. Okay, this die set is packed with 26 dies. Why 26 dies? Well, because the idea behind it is to allow you as the maker a lot of making potential. And I know that in the past, the snowmen that I've done, everything from, you know, Winston or Mr. Frost, there's just great ways that people like to use a snowman die, right? That you can put it in a scene or dress it up. Most of them, of course, are large in scale because they are the focal point of a card. So for Twig and Stump, and again, a shout out to Lisa, probably the most challenging. And this was one that when I licensed the art, it's a beautiful watercolor art. I just said to her, I'm like, I don't think this could ever be a die, but wouldn't it be cool if it could? And she's like, you know what? Like, if you're willing to just license it, I'm willing to try it, and it may not work, and then, you know, you can just look at it. I'm like, okay, fair enough. But she nailed it. And here's the cool thing about Twig and Stump and the value of this set, right? These dies, you get them, okay? They're going to start with some foundational pieces. And when I say foundational pieces, it just means that the shapes, let me get Twig out of here. The base of these little these little snowmen, there's 2 base dies. And these are the same that you would use for all of them, right? All of them meaning that for Twig, you have 2 different options, which way you want him to look, okay? That is by design, 2 different ones. For Stump, you have 3, right? Looking one direction, looking straight on, or looking up. And when I say look, it's because, believe it or not, the base layer is done in black or whatever the dark color you want to be for the buttons and the eyes. These top layers, this is what's done in white or whatever color you want the snow to be, okay? These are not meant to nest like the cutout ones, right? This is a base layer, and then these cut out. This way you're not there sticking down a million little dots. That is the other thing that I didn't like about whenever you do dies like that. If you have to stick down all these little dots, you're gluing, it's a mess, you got to stick them. So it's the negative. But here's what you can do with Twig and Stump. You can create multiple scenes with these guys. This is the one that I chose for the packaging because it has kind of everything in the die set. Because in addition to Twig and Stump, there's also a great tree, just a cool pine tree. So it doesn't have to be a Christmas tree. It doesn't have to have ornaments. You can create and layer the trees. It also has a wood panel, right? And when I say wood panel, meaning this is what's going to cut that wood cutout shape. But if you wanted words, there's winter wishes. Now there's no blade on the outside, right? So if you were just to cut this, you can cut out winter, you can cut out wishes, or just like the cutout die, you can, let's line this up. You can layer this down just like that cutout, layer it down, Mario. You're gonna place this and you're going to run through it, and it's going to cut out the sign and cut out the letters as a window, and you can stack those. So this is done out of wood grain cardstock. So again, these letters are more of that cutout. They're not raised. But we also kept like assembly in mind, meaning let's say you want to make your 200 cards, okay? You're going to have 200 cards. When you're cutting out the arms, boom, you're going to cut out 6. Or if you're going to cut out the arm with the little bend, 6. Right? Even though you may only need 2, you're going to have extra ones, or you can just have a smaller piece of paper. So you don't have to run a die through a bazillion times, especially around the holidays. If you're going to decorate the tree, we wanted to do several ornaments, multi pieces on there. If you're going to do the noses, because there's 2 different carrot noses, there's a long one and a short one, right? Twig and Stump, multiple nose pieces on one die. Again, just to try to make it really convenient, creative convenience for the maker. There's 3 little snowflake dies in there, just snowflakes, random. There's a star. You could just use it, put it on the top of the tree. You can hold a star, make a wish, whatever you want to do with that. Then we've got boxes, the little packaging dies, because at some point, especially when he's helping Twig with the sign, he needs to be a little taller. Or these could just be packages, brown paper packages tied up with string, right? Very cute. So you've got that large package. And again, it's one box, but the way that we design that little string, it just creates kind of forced perspective. So it's really just 2 dies, and same thing with the smaller box, right? It's just 2 pieces. You've got the base color and you've got whatever the ribbon or string is. But then if you stack them, it kind of brings him up to the same height as Twig, if you wanted to do it that way. Twig's got a cool little bucket hat. It could be a thimble or it could be a bucket because it does have that little handle. So it can create a pail, and there's a solid piece and the solid with the little cutout of the snowflake. For clothing, there's the hat. So let's just say you've got Stump looking at you. They're in a snowball fight, right? So here it's just about how you position the arms. And instead of using the circles as the ornaments, because they're wonky, you just cut them out of white and now they are snowballs. So they could be in a snowball fight. So we did them to scale where it would work for the tree or for that. So on Stump, he needed to have a hat that could go straight on, or if you look at it, now see, I'm telling you all the tricks, guys. If you look at his hat straight on, you think, oh, that's just a normal hat. But if you look closely, you'll see that this side is wider than this. And that's because if you put the same hat on this guy that's looking at an angle, you get that angle. You don't necessarily notice it as much here, but here it's definitely distinct that it's designed with that perspective. So this is the same hat that's used on whether he's looking forward or whether he's looking to the side. It's the same hat die, okay? But if he's looking up, he couldn't have that giant hat because when you look up, your hat goes where? Behind your head. So then we had to create a hat die that was just a little sliver. So when you do that, you put it right on the outside of his head, and you still have all those little details, right? Those little cutout pieces, that little tiny pom-pom. But this way, he can be looking up. And the only difference that made him look up, he doesn't have to look up. If you want him to look down, just take his nose and point it the other way. And he's just going to look like he's looking down. Totally fine. It's completely up to you, the personality that you want to create for that. So that's the difference between Stump's hat. Twig only has one, right? You can use it with or without the handle. But Stump, he's got two different hats. And then we have the scarves. And the scarves are pretty much, I mean, I would say they're interchangeable, but not really, because Twig's neck is really skinny. So he's got like that skinny one. It's 2 layers. So it just depends on which color you put underneath. It can change the look of that. And when it comes to Stump, that detail is all cut out in both the hat and the scarf. It's not little pieces. It's just cutout details. So all those pieces are on the same die. So when you cut out the scarf, you got the solid and the cutout piece. A lot of detail packed in one die set, right? So again, you look at this on the package, you're like, huh, okay. But then when you realize, like, wait a minute, I can just do this snowman, or this one, or I have packages, or I have a tree, or you can take the tree sideways and they could be carrying the tree, right? You've got the sign could be up, the sign could be down. You have just some smaller snowflakes. There's so many different opportunities for this. And once Lisa created this, it was like, okay, now we know you can do it. Let's figure out how we can kind of pack this die set. And I think the idea of having just these different positions really gave us a lot more real estate to include all the fun stuff, right? Instead of just doing 2 arms, we're like, okay, how much room do we have? Let's just stack them in there. Because as a maker, you know, maybe one's going to rip, or maybe, you know, I want to do an action scene. I have no idea. I just like creative options. And when we have the space on a template to do it, we do it. Because believe it or not, with a die, there is a template that goes on.
I think if we start today,
yes,
we could bang out 200 Christmas cards easy.
Okay, Mario, I'll get you started today.
Awesome.
There you go. Because I don't make till Christmas, but I'll get you going for sure. And you can do his 200 cards.
I think that was the number last year.
It was last year. I've been talking about 200. So the cool thing, again, about this is that if you're a compartmental maker, you can cut out your pieces, you can sort your pieces, but again, look at these elements, and maybe you just want to use these snowflakes as an accent on an envelope or an accent on a tag. But never underestimate the power of a shape. I'll keep saying that because I do think it's really important. And yes, I wish I could tell the whole story, but it would just add confusion. If I put all these scenes on there, you'd be like, what is this? See? So thanks for showing up to the live and watching it, because you have that superpower knowledge, right? Where you're going to make a card, and maybe you're going to make a card like this, and they're going to be like, wait a minute, that doesn't look like that. How did you get this snowman? You know, where did you draw it on there? Nah, you've got that in there. So, and great. I love the little carrots. I think they're going to be great for spring. If you do a little garden, now you've got little carrots that you can line up at springtime and make a little garden. Geez, so many ideas. So many ideas. All right. So that's Twig and Stump. So cute, right? Just mind blown when you see all of those. And I love how much taller he is, where he can just like, here, I got this. It's like, oh, okay, I got this one down here. Yeah. Fun. Makes me smile, right? The creative side just really makes me smile. Okay. So in chapter 3, right, we launched vintage labels. And this is when I was talking about having a die that was inkable, right? You use archival ink in a brayer and you ink the die. And I know some people struggle with this at first. Hopefully you got the hang of it by now. Again, you just clean that die with rubbing alcohol first, and also to clean off the ink. But using a brayer is the cleanest way to do it. Then when you run it through, it's going to cut and it's going to deboss the color. And I love this idea so much, and I was hoping it would work, because once I got the sample and I knew it would work, you know, as you know, the mayor of Tagtown, I needed some tags, and I needed traditional tags, meaning a number 8, a number 5, a number 2. And if you're a tag person, you know those numbers have significance when you're buying tags, especially in bulk. 8 is the standard large tag that I normally demo on. 5, that's the newest size that we also launched in mixed media. That's kind of your middle. And then number 2, this is really great for gift tags. And so this is framed tags. This is a die set that has the same technology where you can ink this and you can deboss that color in your tags. And you don't have to ink them. They also deboss beautiful, okay? But then it also has 3 different size reinforcers. This one, wider, all the same hole punch size, okay? It's still a 1/4 inch hole punch, okay? But that one's gonna have a wider band, skinnier band, and then this vintage style. Now the die, I'll show you, in the package, I'll actually bring back the package too. So if you buy this die or when you get this die, you're going to see that this one is not in the envelope because it doesn't fit. And I was not going to shrink this tag because I wanted a number 8 tag. Okay. If you are a storing person and you're like, but I want to store it and I need to store it. If you get the embossing folder envelopes, right, that's that new kind of taller one, it would fit in that envelope. But I didn't want to increase the cost of this die just because I wanted to give you like another little bit for the envelope. So I'm like, you know what, as a maker, you're either going to store it or you can just, you know, to be honest, you can open up your storage envelope. You can cut a slit right in this fold, not all the way across, just take your craft knife and cut on that fold. And then when this is in the envelope, you can slide that like through the little notch and it could stick out just a little bit if you didn't want to get another size. Anyway, it's not necessarily about the storage. It's really about the tag. But I wanted to point that out because you might be like, why isn't this in the envelope? It doesn't fit. So don't try to force fit it in there. So here's how the dies are designed. Again, you'll see that raised, wonderful edge. That's where you're going to ink. And every die already has that cutout. So you don't have to figure out where is the center. You don't have to go in with a hole punch. It's already going to cut it. We have just a very small little reveal right there, so it's not going to bruise the paper, especially when you do the reinforcer. Even on heavyweight watercolor, the reinforcer will cover any markings that the die might leave. And it's simple, right? You've got those dies right there. Let me just take this out. So you've got your 3 dies, all that have that outer cut blade, that inkable deboss blade, and then you have your reinforcers. And again, because we had space, why not just have you cut out 2? Maybe you want to do front and back. Right? Maybe you're going to tie this onto a package or do it in a journal and you want the reinforcer front and back. So why not just give you 2 so you can stick that front and back instead of having to cut that out twice? It always drove me crazy. And I didn't understand it till obviously that, you know, when you start designing, it's all about real estate. If you have the room, like whether this has 1 piece or 100 pieces, the cost is no different. It's all about the template that the art fits on. And you can put as many pieces on that template that you can fit. So if you saw some of the original art files, and I think I talked about that in the Village collection that we did last year, it's amazing what you can fit on a die set. But when something's big, you know, you'd like to nest them, but you not necessarily do that every time. So those are frame tags. Let's go on to something else that's a little different. Because, well, different's good. Remember that, guys. Being different is being good. Okay? So, on the back of the idea with vintage labels and frame tags, okay? I thought, wouldn't it be interesting? I did say cool, but I'm trying to change up my lingo. But I did say, wouldn't it be cool if we just created dies that had that technology of the deboss coloring, but it didn't cut a shape? Because like, think of it as like an embossing folder that you can put anywhere. Now, I understand with like the foil plates and all that, that essentially a very similar idea that you can just take a plate and position it wherever. But I wanted to do a set. These are not foiling dies. They're actually, well, there's really nothing. They're called embossing dies because we had to create a name because it didn't exist. So although it's a thinlit, this is called pine patterns. And this one does not cut, okay? It's just an embossing die. So what does that mean? It just means that these pieces, right? There are a bunch of different patterns of pine and pine cones that you can position anywhere you want, run it through just like you would a die. So this would be your thin die adapter, your 2 cutting pads, because it's not a folder, it's a die. And it's just going to deboss that shape in whatever you put it in. So this could be, it does look like stitching. I totally agree. And if you were a stitcher, you could go in and stitch. Now that you have, if you have distressed pencils or you can do markers, you could go in and do any kind of pen work if that was your jam. But these are also inkable, right? So just the same technology we did with the labels, you can take this and go in and brayer your color and ink. So you can ink the pine cones brown, you can ink this green, and when you run it through, it's going to deboss the color or not. I wanted to show you that the pressure is really significant. But if you look at the back, you get a little bit of poke out on the end. So you want to be careful of your paper, right? It doesn't push it out all the way on the back because it's not an innie and an outie like an embossing folder. It's just going to press it down. But what I like is, as a maker, I could take a pre-bought tag. It could be a regular tag. It could be a card front, and I could choose a pine pattern. There's just single small ones. There's large clusters. This could be something that could go right in the middle of a card, and I could do a sentiment, or it could go on the side, or again, it could be all these corner pieces, right? And I could run this through. My advice to you, if you are going to create multiple pieces, I wouldn't try more than 2, okay? And those 2 need to be far apart. If you try to load up your plate with all of these, say you're like, oh, I'm going to do a background like an embossing folder. They're not meant to do that, and the machine is not going to provide consistent pressure for you to emboss multiples as a background. You'll get some texture, but it will be very uneven, so that's not what they're designed for. They are designed that you could put a couple in opposite corners. If you ran it through twice, it's not going to flatten out the other one. So if you wanted one here and one here and one here, you could run it through multiple times, okay? But you would need to do them independently. I would say like these were done at the same time. So I've had really good luck with 2 because they've either been opposite corners here or opposite corners here, or even up here, it still provide even pressure. But once you get a little crazy, that's just not going to work. But I love the idea that, yeah, you get to customize how you want it to look, especially if you have stamps, right? You get to create whatever background space you want to put your stamps or ephemera, ideology, whatever you wanted, paper dolls, and I like the idea of embossing dies. Maybe people will, maybe they won't, but I certainly don't mind trying something different. And again, these are inked with archival ink, where you ink the die and then you run it through just like you would a regular die. Even though it doesn't cut, it changes nothing. You run it through exactly how you would a die. So I love that. So those are pine patterns. And then we get into 3D, because I do love 3D. And these, whoop, whoop, my word. Okay. This is 3D Pine Branch. Now I mentioned about space and real estate. We did this with doily, if you remember, doily. That you could create that embossed design and have a space. What's really nice about pine branches, look at the detail. Look at the detail, the fact that these fade out because it is going to be that 3D. Then the pine needles on top literally look like they're on top. They're stacked. It's not just one like pushed out element, okay? It's a pine branch. That's really what it is. So you wanted something that's going to fade. You want something that's going to be in the middle, and you're going to want to see that branch sticking out of the top. So Ryan did an amazing job with the detail. I love this. Now, what can you do with it? Well, first of all, you can just emboss paper, okay? But know that because it's got so much empty space, you are going to get a little ripple in your paper. That's inevitable. It's not, even when you spray your paper, it's still going to have that little ripple, but if you're going to glue it down on a card, it's going to remain flat. So don't panic there. But when you see that little bit of paper, it's simply because there's no texture or design, and it's only here, and so the paper is adapting to this texture. This will allow you to stamp. Of course, stamp, you can also do it this way. It creates a beautiful space for a sentiment. You could do it this way. It creates a space for a sentiment. You can create however you want. But there's many ways that we can also alter this. One is you can ink the background first, okay? Meaning I went in and just did an inked background, smushed my ink pad, took my paper, but I knew where my design was going to go. So when I was inking my paper, and I inked it first, right? I took a piece of white cardstock, put my ink down, sprayed it with water. I did the edge, and I did the top, and I dried it. Did the edge, did the top, dried it. And you create that pattern. And you get what you get, and you don't throw a fit. But it creates a very cool color in the background. Then I embossed it. Then this came up through the green, very cool. And then to make it stand out a little bit more, I just went in with a blending brush, right? I love a blending brush. Did a little inking, and that's what created those shadows to really pick that up. And you can ink in any color. A brush is going to be your friend because you're able to just hit a little high points. If you take your ink pad direct, you're probably going to get more ink in the background than you actually want. But that's one way that you can create with this. Another way is taking craft paper and inking the folder. So this one is done with picket fence. This is done with bundled sage oxide, right? So let me just kind of bring these in. We doing okay, Mario? Okay, good deal. When he's looking around, I'm like, hope everything's good.
Everything's perfect.
Okay, so we got these two inks. So what I did on this one is actually ink the folder. You know, you've seen that before, like with doily, where we go in and actually ink the folder with the oxide. And so on that solid part, that's where it stamped the color. And it left my pine pattern the color of the paper. So if you didn't do this with brown, maybe you had green cardstock, you could do that. You could do any of that. It just means that when you ink it, especially with an oxide or picket fence, which I've mentioned many times is pretty much an oxide, it's white, okay? it debosses that color and it leaves your pine branches whatever color the paper is. So simple, right? Just a beautiful way to do it. So this is about just having white paper. This one is about creating kind of an inky background, right? I used forest moss and peeled paint distress ink, and then I did a little blending with walnut stain using a brush, right? Or this one is using oxide. So many ways that you can take a pattern. And again, I think kind of seeing ideas. Oh, ice spruce would be amazing. Very, very cool. Just love the idea of it. Someone asked, how do you clean the brush? You just clean it with water or wipe it off on a baby wipe. But I only clean it if I'm going to go from ink to oxide. That's really it. Beautiful, beautiful way to see it. But again, the packaging just shows the render. That's what we need to do. We need to show you the design part. Okay? All right, one more and then we'll get into the makes. So hopefully this little bit more in-depth review of the designs is beneficial.
It's very beneficial because the pine people were really confused by it, but now they absolutely love it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Then it's worth it. So this is a
Good
3D.
job.
Thanks Mario. This is tree rings. Okay, I love this design. I love that notch intentional. So Ryan, thank you for keeping it there. He's like, you know what? This is really distracting and I need to fill this in. And I'm like, nope, embrace imperfection. That is how the wood split. This was a photograph that I licensed. I loved it. So wanted to create that design. Take a look at this paper. I mean, I've done wood grain, lumber, planks, but seriously, this slice, this tree ring, I freaking love it. The detail is unbelievable, honestly. Now, this is just done on craft. This is just done on white. Okay, so this is craft heavy stock. This is white heavy stock, right? This is 300 pound, but I like the fact that a thicker paper is going to hold way more texture than thin paper. So if you're ever working with 3D, I do recommend that a thicker paper is just going to show a lot more of the little bits of texture that maybe would get lost on thinner paper, okay? But this one is just, and when you see the makes from this, it's like, my gosh. So take a look at what we can do. So this one is white with a little bit of oxide. Frayed burlap, I believe. I set my inks aside, pumice stone, see? I set my inks aside. I know the other one is frayed burlap. This one is, it could be frayed burlap, but I did pumice stone oxide. I inked the folder first, sprayed my paper with water, and ran it through. Now, normally you would only get ink in the debossed areas, right? Those really heavy areas. But on this one, because there's so much detail, after I inked the folder, which would normally just be inking the folder, I actually took the ink pad and went in a circle and kind of followed the pattern. And this way, it actually picked up a little bit more ink. And when I sprayed my paper with water first, the water reacted the ink and I got just a beautiful bleed through. So that's where I got the inking. So there was no other secondary inking. This was done, I embossed it and I was done. No secondary inking on that, okay? Then I thought, well, that's cool because this kind of looks like birchwood. I wonder if that idea would pick up on craft. Now, it kind of did, but then I just got a little crazy because this one, oh my heck, it is so good. This one, I did walnut stain oxide first. That's where I debossed my color. And it put in that nice brown, but then I wanted it to be oxidized. So I ran it through, inked my folder, ran it through, debossed, took my paper out, and then I sprayed my paper again so that brown ink would really oxidize. That's where it got that little kind of chalky, hazy, creamy, dreamy, almost patina look in there. I dried it. Then I went in with Distress ink, also in walnut stain, using, I think I used a blending tool on that one. I used the Dome foam, but you could use a blending brush. But I like the foam because the foam is going to get more of the surface. And I just took that foam and followed the circle and just created that extra tone. So I love that too, right? Now you don't have to do that much detail. If you just want something really high def, like look at the difference of this one. See, it's like, it's just in high def. If you want your color to be very crisp, right? So you can see in there, it is incredibly crisp. It doesn't look kind of, well, I like this look, but I also love this look. This one's done with archival. So instead of inking your folder with oxide or ink, if you use archival ink, let me grab this tin. See, I'm glad I had all this stuff set aside, right, Mario?
No kidding.
Really important.
Come on, that one looks so real.
It does look real. It's pretty amazing.
That's legit.
So this one, that's where frayed burlap came in. It could be whatever color you want, but I did frayed burlap archival on my folder. debossed it, ran it through, and then all you have to do is just clean your folder with, rubbing alcohol or hand sanitizer to get the archival cleaner, take it off. But look at that. So see the difference. I mean, they're both beautiful. This one's just a little bit softer because the ink is done with a blending tool. So like I said, it's like a little bit more, soft and kind of hazy. And this one is definitely high def. Like you could really see all the tree ring, right? You can see that whole ring of the wood. So good, that folder, right? So good. Okay, so with that is our Christmas release. We are ready to get into the make. So now that you really understand these, hopefully you'll understand the dies more, then the makes are just gonna make way more sense. And a shout out to the makers for honestly creating so much good. Just amazing inspirational pieces. I need to get this pile out of the way because I'm gonna, me, I'll throw it right off the edge of the table, right? You can put a basket there if you want.
Sure.
There we are. Okay, really, the makers. I can't thank them enough because every time, again, they see the dies ahead of time. We go through a quick review, like here's what it is. You do what you want, and unbelievable. So this inspiration is just going to, well, it's going to blow you away. So this first one, Tifa did. Now Tifa, I love this. Her taggies. Right now, Natifa normally does envelopes, but also if you follow her, you know that she does so much more than envelopes, journal arts, and of course these taggies. And what I really love about this, and thanks for the note on this as well, because I created, like, when I set this aside, I'm like, note to self, because I haven't really gone through this yet. But she said the cool thing about this idea is to remind makers that you can do so much more with things other than just plain cardstock. So the back, so she cut some stuff. This is the new tag, right? Look how she inked that. I love the whole idea of using the frame tag. But then she backed it with that wood. Look at, that's the outie. So you could do the innie or the outie. Beautiful. That's her tag. She used the dies in metallic, right? Good cheer. I love the stars, right? The star pieces from that. I love the idea of using these dies with metallic in modern, but the whole concept for her tag, what she was saying is that you can take everyday things, ephemera, like from Ideology, right? Flashcards or things, and you can die cut out of just about anything to incorporate or even emboss into things. So that's where her taggy really comes into play. So she's got a little Merry Christmas. Then I love seeing the tag done out of metallic. So see, just debossed. Little archival ink is still going to show on the metallic, give it a nice little staining. Those little stars from the Christmas cutouts, the one in the sky, because the makers, they can mix and match their dies however they want. Little Ideology numeric there. Then we have the Ideology flashcards, just bright. And I love how she added the word Merry, just cut out. A little stencil on the back. I mean, really, the amount of detail in like every single layer, from the reinforcements to adding glitter and sparkle on here, just shows that you can take these pieces, right? Look how she backed it with the Ideology backdrops, the candy stick paper. This one, just fabulous. This is from the worn wallpaper scraps and just cutting out the letters Joy. So we know from the Christmas cutouts, you can just drop that die. It doesn't cut the rectangle. It just creates that negative. But how great to have that as a piece, and then just inking and stamping the back of it. See? Oh my gosh, so much detail. There you go. There's your cutouts in the metallic over that plaid paper. Little Ideology label sticker. So it's really fun. Oh my gosh, look at the remnant rubs on that. Oh, that is so cool. See, that's how you just do the rubs. Just lay that sheet down because they transfer so beautifully. It's really challenging to stamp over metallic paper with, stays on or archival, anything. It just doesn't look as intense. That's where remnant rubs come in. Just take that sheet, sacrificial sheet, and off you go. Beautiful. Look at that. Metallic wood grain, cut that out, right? Cut out 'Tis the Season. I love the stars from the cutouts because it does have that little hand-worn look. Leave the negative space because that's going to reveal the paper. So whether these are going to be the Ideology cards, whether they're going to be backdrops, Christmas layers, right? Just add a little element, add a piece there, right? Just having some, oh my gosh, look at that brilliant idea. Just taking those label stickers, create that as a background and cut around that. Now this isn't a die cut, so you would just have this piece and then you would just cut around it. This one, look at that. Look at how well that flashcard embossed with the pine. See what I mean? Cutting that out and then just do a little ink blending around it. That is magic. So beautiful. Great idea for, again, and this is what I loved about this make. I wanted to just show it first because sometimes we are really stuck on cardstock because that's what I use for the packaging, and you think, okay, I need solid cardstock or just white cardstock that I'm going to ink, and that's what I'm going to die cut. But when you really look in your creative space and you see all the paper components you might have, pattern paper, ephemera, flashcards, anything, remnant rubs, stamps, and how you can incorporate everything together, right? Put this together. If you're not a card maker, I mean, that's what I think these taggies are so great, that you can just make a bunch of tags, gather them together, and that is the gift, right? So people ask all the time, what do you do with tags? This is a brilliant idea of what you do with tags. You turn it into a gift. Beautiful. Great make, Tifa. Love it. So we're going to get into, I've tried to break down this live pretty much by design so I can focus on that, but you'll also see a lot of mix and match. So Vicky created this. This one, of course, is modern festive, but you can also see it over that layered plaid. You know I love the color palette, right? Neutral. Christmas is just, I love these colors on there. I also love that she layered them. And take a look at this stitching. Vicky, that is some good wonky stitching right there. Right around that little fruit slice, that little holly. It just gave it a totally different feel. I love the stitching around these squares. And then those little number cutouts. You're also going to see quite a few components from Chapter 3. We talked about Chapter 3 with Postal, Collector, and Specimen. So those tall numbers, remember I said you can create an advent calendar or anything? That's a nice reminder of how you can use those numbers or any components with for the seasonal makes. I love this, right? Very, very rich. And I also like just kind of these layers, meaning cutting them out twice and just offsetting them a little bit just to create that little shadow. Just cool. Cool thing also with the plaid. Pretty much, I'm going to keep all these. I'm going to keep Tifa's here too, because hers, I mean, I put that there because it's modern. I'm going to put these down. I know you guys like that kind of shot. I do too. I always like to build up to, you know, what it is for a design, and then we go into the next one. Paula created this card. Look how beautiful this is. Vintage beautification, Paula. There is the inking of the folder. Then when you deboss it, that's on white cardstock or a light cardstock. So this way the wood grain, the pine retains that color of your paper. Stitching around the edge, and this is what I was saying about having that pattern allows you to stamp an image. And then just look at how beautiful that modern festive is. That little fruit slice in there. This is all done with a little bit of distressed rock candy glitter, just adding that sugary sparkle. Layer all these pieces. It's so interesting, right? When you see all of the modern elements, I'm going to bring that back in. You're like, ugh, what is that? That's way too modern. That's not my style. Look at how modern meets vintage, right? You just give it the right colors, give it that little bit of sparkly shine, and there you go. Modern certainly does meet vintage. And layering the pieces, that's the nice thing about the pine cones and all of these. All those are to scale so you can tuck them in. And yes, that fruit slice, I know that Paula really likes the orange slice candies. And this makes me want to, you know it was going to come back to candy at some point during this, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to eat an orange slice candy right now. That yummy jelly candy that just tastes like Sunkissed. All right, love the little jute string there too. So yeah, oh look, there's a little bit of mica. Yep, I'm guessing that's decayed. That wouldn't surprise me if that was a little bit decayed on there. Beautiful, but a nice way again to remind you the importance of, you know, having great backgrounds for pattern paper, but also having some embossing folders that give you that landing space to use your stamps. Right? I agree, Julie. That fruit slice adds a ton. Right? Now brace yourselves, because
I love orange slices.
I know she does. She really does. I love them. Take a look at this card that Kuber did, right? So when you see that wood slice, I mean, Goosey's right there, because it does. It just, and I just want to open this. Oh, no, I'm not going to. I just wanted to, I was going to open it, but she's taped it shut. But it is a card, but I just wanted to show like the stitching. Yes, you can stitch around the edges, but I talked about this as well, stitching kind of that background layer to create that element if you don't want to stitch right on your make. But take a look at how tree rings works as a foundational background for modern, right? It's such a cool folder, such a good folder. I love the colors as well, where it's just got that little hint of minty color in there. There, the joy letter, that's going to be from bold text, right? You don't always have to do the knockout. And I told you had big letters. You can use a clipping sticker from Ideology. These are the metallic droplets. So these are just those little droplets that you can glue down. I love it. Just adds that little bit. I know Heidi used them in her Stamp Timber Make as well. But look at that, just that little bit of rock candy. 'Tis the season, guys, for rock candy and mica flakes. You're going to see that a lot in the world of distress. I love distress rock candy glitter because it is completely clear and it just adds that little sugary vibe as well as the mica flakes. But amazing, right? So again, you look at both of these cards side by side, even just kind of going through the progression of them, and you can see that it can go from a really cool metallic modern vibe. You can totally take it vintage and grungy and take with muted colors. You can give it a wonderful vintage vibe by just how you mix and match the colors and maybe the imagery that you pair it with. And you can also give it just a very woodland vibe with your background and the color. It's cool. And that is modern, right? So you see, sometimes you just go modern festive, nah. Well, when you see it, those pieces, amazing. Yes, there will be glitter throughout this portion of the...
Yes,
there will be glitter. Okay, next we're going to get into the Christmas cutouts, and I really love just that you're going to see so many ideas for this die set, right? It definitely has, as I mentioned, just a very hand-cut kind of country vibe, and I love this. Stacy created this card. Here's just taking wood grain cardstock, right? So you can take the distressed wood grain cardstock. You could even do two-tone. I love the idea of cutting out the word on the card panel, right? So remember that piece, you can just lay it on the card panel because it's going to give you the reveal. And then she just went in and stitched a frame around it. So cutting it out on the card panel, stitching a frame, and then adding that little tree, little foam, because see, that would also cut out. So adding that piece on top. And then I just love these great little pieces. These are inked and stamped. Stacy always does just some inking and stamping and splattering. A great way to use up your backgrounds if you've been making backgrounds all year, or even backgrounds you don't like. Now's the chance to cut them up, because when you make them into a little shape, all the little splatters, or, and I know this was all intentional, but like misstamps or anything really lend themselves to creating it. I also love that these shapes in the cutouts are designed to sit on top of these words. So that really is the scale of this. The word was kind of the focal point, and these pieces were just, you know, accessory pieces. But if you think about it, you could do love, and then you can do the moon and stars, and you can make this into a baby card, or there's many ways that you can use this die set after the holiday season. It's got movement. That means joy. Yes. Yes, look at this shakety shake. I love this idea of using the tag. So here we have the frame tag as a shaker on a card. So we've got pine branches, we've got the tag, and we have the Christmas cutouts. All of those combined in this. So again, the benefit of Alive, and thanks to the makers, because you think, well, how did these things, how would you ever use them together? This is a great example. And I love this shake idea where the tag is just in that little cello. And that's where all little cello bags got all your little shakety shake. Some sequins, some rock candy, and your scene is inside. So another idea for tags. If you just like to make, that's why I love that number 5. It's a great card size. The number 2, the smaller one, is great for gifts. But how charming is that? And I really love how the pine branches just frame that. Very cute card. Oh my gosh, so good.
I love that Joe puts her name on the front of cards.
I know. See, we do always say that to her. So Anita created this vignette. This vignette is so fun, so whimsical, a total different departure from the style of these cards. And that's what I love about makers. Anita's just like, yeah, just watch how fun I'm going to make this. With colors and stamps and doing some white pen to go on the outside. So this is a vignette box. She's got some tiny lights in there. She actually has 2 sets. I'll show you. We have that. There you can see the little scene that she built. Little rolling hills, some tiny little paper dolls, the cutout house. So one set of lights, that's going to turn on. Can you see the little stars? She's got the lights back there. So if you were going to use this maybe as a night light, you can put that there. And just that idea of creating a night light just with the moon and stars and cloud with the tiny lights is adorable. Again, could be used all the time. And then she went in and did tiny lights around the house. Let me get this other one. Where is the switch? There we go. Boom. Take a look at that. Love that. The colorful lights around the house. So fun, so clever. And then this is, again, an ideology vignette box, and then just did some wire. So it's a little hanger. But how fun is that? And you could, I mean, that's the other thing. Like as a makers, you can take any idea to whatever extreme you want. You could add tiny lights, you could add layers, you can incorporate paper dolls, texture, or not, right? You could do whatever you want. That, of course, holds true for, well, for many different styles of makers, like Vicky. Take a look at that. Take a look at that. I'll give you a minute. and then I'll point it out, because when I saw this, I was like, are you kidding? Okay, maybe the camera will pick it up, maybe it won't, but let me just tell you. Background, of course, tree rings. So we already appreciate how beautiful that background is. But these elements all look like they are cut out of sheets of tin. Metallic cardstock, painted, and then scuffed off, and then attached with Ideology hardware heads. Come on! I mean, that right there, that is where country meets industrial, meets goodness, meets Christmas, meets hello, beautiful. I love this idea. I've never seen it done, and I love it. I love the idea of making it wood and metal, very industrial, even though this is metallic cardstock, but it's the introduction of those hardware heads, because you just glue these down. These aren't brads. They've got all the different screw tops and different sizes, and incorporating it with the paint really makes it look like these pieces have been just built on, assembled, and also just kind of adding that little layer. You can just see that that's kind of screwed on. The background is screwed on. I mean, seriously, that is industrial festivities right there. I'm just trying to move the card so you can really appreciate the metallic, because it does. It looks like pieces of metal that were done. Brilliant, brilliant way, Vicky. I think it's so cool. Yeah. So this again, just, I mean, I'm guessing, I mean, I don't want to bend it, but I'm really guessing it's cardstock. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Vicky used metal. Oh, I'm gonna cheat.
I was waiting to see.
Okay, it's Ideology craft stock. It isn't metal. That's what I thought. It is, but it wouldn't surprise me if Vicky did it. She's like, oh, I'm gonna take a plasma cutter and draw the die. No, this is cut out of Ideology metallic craft stock, the same metallic craft stock you've seen, and then that's the silver, and then painted and then scuffed away. Just brilliant. So yeah, done out of paper to look like metal.
Yes, it is paper.
Yeah, I had to cheat. That was the only piece that I could like peek without destroying it. So cool. I know. No, one cannot have enough hardware heads, Julie. Right, and that would be Zoe and definitely Emma. Like Emma's.
Emma loves.
But now I think it's going to be Vicky as well. So when it comes to making, I mentioned style, and I always love that makers just do them, including Jen. So take a look at these cards from this die set done in Jen style. Perfect colors in Keisha and Jen and Sharon. They embrace color, and I love the cheerfulness of the cards. And I thank you for sending multiple cards of that die set, because it does show the versatility of this set. So here you can see using those pieces, creating a scene over a blended background, right? You've got a little sparkle on the stars. You could either leave the windows in. I think that's also really clever, especially if you're going to layer them so you don't get the other colors poking through. I also love just seeing those windows kind of popped out. And then you see these cards where you can use those negative cutouts. Again, just taking your cardstock, cutting that out. And I love how she built a Christmas tree out of those words, right? Scaling those up from small to large, and then incorporating that little element inside with just that little bit of sparkle over a rainbowy background. And then also just inking a rainbow background and cutting the words and building them that way. So you can see that, I mean, love is going to be great all year. Hope, peace, joy. Like these words could be used year round. It doesn't have to be for Christmas, but the die set is Christmas. So again, you know, you see Valentine's Day, probably a lot of people are going to be using this, and you're like, oh, where did you get this? Yep, that would be seasonal die. But that's also really important when we're designing, that you have something that you're not just going to take out once a year. You really look at what your shapes can do and how you can bring them to life. Beautiful, beautiful look for Christmas cutouts, and seeing how it can be, you know, very woodsy, very whimsy, very industrial, and very bright and rainbow colorful. Beautiful ideas. Beautiful. See, that's the thing. Even if I was just doing samples, it would just be the style that I do. So I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Then we're going to get into Holiday Brushstrokes 3. And again, I love how beautiful all these makes are. Juliana created this card. This is what I was talking about, that layered plaid, where you don't have to layer all the pieces. Here she just took that one element of that plaid, cut it out of metallic, created a beautiful centerpiece using all of those elements from Holiday Brushstrokes 3, and then did a little gold splattering on there with a little Merry Christmas clippings. Beautiful card over an inky background. See, there is beauty and simplicity. I say that all the time, whether you're doing inked paper or color cardstock. That's the other thing. Sometimes people, you know, you forget that You don't have to have all these different colors of paper. If you have ink or you have watercolor, if you have any kind of coloring medium, just start with white. And you can either color the pieces first, this way when you die cut, you kind of get what you get, or you cut them all out of white and then go in and color them individually, right? Because by doing so, you can totally change this up. So Zoe in Italy created this. I love the colors that she used for this particular die set. The blues, a little bit of crackle on there that also gave it a shine. That stencil background, right? You can see that arch. Stamping with a little embossing on vellum, using those droplets, and just how you can position and kind of create your own florist. Creating your own bouquet out of these. And you don't have to use all the pieces. You can mix and match and use whatever elements you want, but just seeing just those two cards, that's why I wanted to start with that. So you can see like, wow, they're so different and so unique. And Kubert created this piece. This is an Ideology mini clipboard. This is an older Biggs die. I do love this arch, but it's a very cool arch frame. We did this in Etc. as well. I love the idea of creating a foundational piece too, right? Sometimes people are like, I'm just not a card maker. I don't know what else to do. Any kind of structure can become a piece of art. It could be a clipboard. It could be a picture frame. It could be a panel, a canvas. Just use your elements and use whatever you want. I love the stamping on here. I love the crackle, right? Take a look at that distressed crackle paste in the background. Just adding that. And you can see the little reveal of the collage paper that's kind of peeking through. A little mummy cloth. We talk about this. This is Ideology Halloween, but it's beautiful year-round because it just adds that little cheesecloth element. And then that's also Ideology for a quote chip. But just beautiful to see how people are using a die that, you know, when you just look at it, you think, okay, well, that's the way it's used. It can be incredibly personal when you start laying it out. Barbara created this one. We love the color palette. I love the wood slice, and here's what I also like. Look at what she did to this tree ring. Crackle over the top of that. Oh my word. Yeah, holy crackle. That's amazing, right? As if this texture was not yummy enough, adding that little splattering, it looks like oxide that's creating that little oxidation, but just kind of swiping some crackle into the corners, to me just gave this tree ring even that much more texture. But the color palette, it's just all these vintage hues. There's mica stain throughout. So if you see that little sheen of color, it's just using the mica stain. Most of these, of course, Halloween colors for the warmer colors and the cooler colors from Christmas. But how beautiful is that? And then, of course, a stamp on there. Very beautiful card, Barbara. I just love it. And I also love, you know, I'm always a fan of going outside. And they're like, well, what do you do if you mail it? Well, you just fold it in like that, and then you mail it, and it'll just pop out. Paper doesn't have a memory, right? But how beautiful is that? I mean, really, one more time on that texture. My gosh. The texture and the color. So this, yeah, frame. Or, you know, you can give them a card and give them a clipboard, and they could clip the card to that. I mean, that's a gift idea in and of itself. Stacy created this. Take a look at this. This is an Etc. tag, right? This is a number 8. So Etc. is like a paper board. It's through Stampers Anonymous. It's a really thick board. A great foundation if you're going to build a piece. And I'm very happy to see the stick, Stacy. Very happy. But more importantly, I'm happy to see a dimensional make out of that, right? As I mentioned, we have all different types of makers. Card makers, journalers, people that do mixed media, a lot of people that do like assemblage work, dimensional work. And sometimes when you see, you know, a lot of cards or a lot of dies, you think, well, that's really all they're for. They're just to stick them on something flat. But this just shows you how you can take dies and totally give them depth, give them life if you're this type of assemblage maker. And more importantly, like if you look at the background, right, we see that tree ring as a texture. But if these elements are recognizable, this is chapter 3. So when you think, okay, how would I use specimen? How would I use a slide frame at Christmas? Bing, 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 right here. This is how you would, because you can take a photo that you have, or you can take something that looks festive from a photo booth and you can put it in that frame. You can cut this out of wood grain to give it more of a wood look. I love those tiny little eyelets. Do a little stamping. Collect 365. Again, those are from specimen where you can take those words. And then we have all of this. We have this beautiful Holiday Brushstrokes 3. And just look how they're layered. I'll give you kind of that side reveal where when you cut these out, you can stack them, layer them in with foam squares, and you can offset them a little bit just to create some great depth and dimension. Incorporate some naturals, some little twigs. Have some pieces kind of go up. There's a little bit of lichen in there. That's really cool. little bit of just fabric scraps that you stitch. There's the stick, some ideology, tiny bells, some string. It's so wonderful and natural, and it does make it look even more organic and authentic having this, right? You think like, how did you get that tag cut out of a piece of wood? Oh, well, because I did, right? Because having these elements just makes it look that much more rich and organic. And I think that is another reason to love a shape. Seeing all of these pieces laid out and be like, dang, like one flower, bing, bing, like, beautiful. I love seeing designs brought to life. That's the idea, right? Sometimes I have these ideas and I'm like, do I really want to do holiday number 3? And I'm like, yeah, but I want something really, for these flowers, I wanted something like breathy, if that makes sense. Just something that had like more space to it, I suppose. All right, let's get into Retro Santa. So Kathy created this. I thought this was a brilliant idea. I talk about this a lot during lives, about as makers, that just your creativity is a gift to you, a gift to the world, and it could be a gift to coworkers, neighbors, any of that. I agree, Roseanne. The layers, unbelievable, right? I appreciate all the comments you guys are leaving for the makers. They're just absolutely beautiful. So Kathy created this box. This is using an Ideology box top. These were retired. We had these for several years and I loved them. They worked on the vignette, but great just to make a paper box out of that, or it could be a vignette. But here she used the Retro Santa, so you can see he's in that corner. I love that she put a little acetate over that cutout and kind of created her own little shakers. So it looks like a vintage snowflake box, which is where the art was, because I have this original box. So it looks like a box of snow. So in and of itself is a gift box, or it could be a display after the season. But I love that Retro Santa. See, like his hand, he can hold so many things. There's a tree from Twig and Stump. I just noticed that in the background. Great scale there. But what she created was essentially a box of gift tags, a box of tags you can gift to someone to use as their gift tags. And for these small little ones, she used the frame tags die, inked in all different colors. She used that tree from Twig and Stump. You don't have to use the entire tree just because it's that tall. Look at how perfect just the top half of that tree is. So much work in this box. Oh my gosh, because each tree is cut twice. And then the ornaments, this is the little tinsel, Ideology tinsel twine right there. So created those festive small tags. So these are smaller gift tags. This is the smallest one in that set, little number 2, where you can do a little to and from, right? So she went in and stamped the back of these. I think this set is, I don't know, it might be special delivery. I don't know the CMS number, but yeah, you can create that. I think that's beautiful. And then created, oh my gosh, look at the bottom of the box. She even collaged the inside. Details matter, people. Look at that. Little ephemera, so when you take that out, that's like 2 display pieces. Oh, details. I love this, Kathy. But take a look at Retro Santa on there. This is what I was also talking about having shapes that are simple, that you can build, and you can do this in repetition. Again, you do this while you're watching TV, or when you have that creative block, or when you're just sitting there, you just start cutting out those pieces. And if you do these with, if you have a Xyron, you can run it through with adhesive, or if you have adhesive sheets, or you could use glue, but that kind of adhesive makes it fast. But again, repetition, inking the tags, splattering the tags. By debossing that color, it already gives you that unique framed element for these. I love how these alternate in color, right? Red and green, but you can mix and match whatever colors you want to do for these. I also love the difference in reinforcers because again, all those fit all the tags. It doesn't matter, right? They all have the same hole. It just depends on what shape, but see how it makes them look unique? Little jute, again, some little stamped elements on there. That was a Christmas one that we did. We did like a Christmas stamp set. Maybe that one was called special delivery. I don't know. I can't remember all the CMS, but I love the idea of creating this, creating a gift that you could give to a neighbor, a friend, a coworker, and where they have tags. They're again stamped on the back so they can just fill in the to and from, tied on to a gift, a bottle of wine, and then they're so cool. Like all those tags, and then you still have this beautiful box. So like every part of that is a gift, right? Every part. I agree, Karen. It's very Miracle on 34th Street. I love it. I just loved his style, right? It definitely reminded me of like an old advertisement. Just so cool. All right. The details. The details. All right. So speaking of details, look at this. Again, Barbara with the colors. I just love this. It's this minty thing. So she must have been like channeling this minty vibe. Because Barbara, this card is beautiful. Again, take a look at the pine branches. See how it's it's offset. Doesn't always have to be on that left side of the card. It can go right across the top. And then she's got that retro Santa. I love the colors that this is done in, right? Much softer. These are all done with mica stain. This looks like foundry wax to me, right? So foundry wax on these pieces of paper, that's what make them look so metallic, so beautiful. A little stamp. That's some stamping with embossing to create a little bit of resist. There's some rock candy on there. Let's take a look at that snow across the top. So inking, stamping and embossing, stamping a sentiment, using a little bit of glitter, doing foundry wax, doing your pieces. These are all things that when you look at a card, you're like, wow, that's absolutely beautiful. If you broke it down, you just ink a bunch of backgrounds, then you emboss a bunch of backgrounds, you stamp some backgrounds, you cut your pieces. You have all this stuff done, and then you can sit down and just build those cards. Once you kind of have your sample, you can play around with it. But I love it. I love the colors, and really, he's such a statement piece. He's a big guy, and I like the idea of just focusing him in one part of that. Because so often I've designed shapes where they're the focal point. There's nothing wrong with that. He's still a focal point, but it gave you real estate as a maker to use other things, okay? Zoe, I love glitter. Who am I? I agree. Yep, Chris, I think it's just amazing. Yep. Kathleen, minty vibe. That's what I say. It is something about a minty vibe. But you're going to see, really, the makers, they keep blowing me away. So Sharon created this piece, and I remember her messaging me. She's like, so I have a piece that I bought at a store, and it was like a home decor piece. Can I take the home decor piece and alter it? I'm like, heck yeah, because that's a great idea. So this frame, it's a wooden frame with like a piece of, looks like a transparency on there. That was a purchased thing that Sharon purchased, okay? But then taking the dies and customizing it. Hopefully that gives you ideas when you're out shopping, wherever you shop, you know. We talk about home goods and TJ Maxx a lot, but really any place that you can shop, you might see something, a lantern, a frame, and you're like, I like that. Finish it up. And often a die could even cover up something that was there that you didn't want. But I love how she's got the Santa kind of waving through the window, right? I can show you the mechanics. He doesn't have to be squared in there. You position him to where he fits exactly how you want. And then you'll see so many different elements in here, right? So you can take pieces from Modern Festive. You can take pieces from Holiday Brushstrokes. You can take any of your greenery pieces and create a garland. And then you've got that wreath, that Colorize Yuletide, right? Such a great focal point for this piece.
That is
Again,
such a great MacGyver.
it's really good, right?
Good.
And it could sit on a mantle. You could even put like a battery operated tea light behind him, and then it would just kind of flicker light at night, right? You could even do tiny lights around the outside and the back and then turn it on, and then it would just glow inside. So put it in front or even of a candle. I love the idea of that window pane for Christmas. Really cute. So it's going to have, again, we talked about this when we did the candy corn ghost, right? With the lights that you can go around and you can shop and you can look for things that you can alter with your creative ideas. Customize it. Really brilliant. The idea is just.
Find some of those frames.
Maria's like, I'm going shopping.
That's going to be cool to MacGyver.
It's so cool. So Nico created this card. I love the background again of tree rings. Very cool. I love seeing this die, right? Kubera used this die, that arch for the holidays. So it's a good die to have. And there's that colorized wreath without the bell, without the berries, because you don't have to use all those pieces all the time. They're separate. You can use whatever part you'd like to use. I love that he's got some texture paste on there. A little snow created some texture, a little stamp, joy to the world, and just a really pretty card. And this could be a shaker or not. You don't have to do the shakety shake, but the colors, right? The bright wreath on there. Nico is so cool on that window with the snow and the wood slice. Just really, really good. Really good. In fact, I think I have a little bit of room. I'm gonna try to put these in. I've got some big pieces coming up, but I still like that shot of you guys seeing it because I'm going from retro into the Colorize. There we go. Okay, you can see that, right? I don't mind doing a little setup here. I just have some big pieces, but I think seeing them all together is going to be good. Okay, there we go. Now we'll keep going. So this next card, let me bring this in. Debbie created this, and just Debbie Adams, like, wow. Okay, the idea, so like vintage oilcloth, vintage gift wrap, right? That whole retro vibe. This is where I was talking about the power of a shape. So here we can see the layered plaid. That's going to be that white layer. There is also a red layer. So you can do tone on tone. It's still going to provide some texture in there to the plaid. It may not pick it up on camera, but in real life you can see that. Then we've got ho ho ho, just taking some of the letters from any of the bold text. And then this is just using the bell from Colorize Yuletide. You don't have to use the wreath. It also uses the bow, but you don't have to use that piece, okay? Here she took the bell, so think of this for a wedding card now, right? I never even thought of this as wedding bells until I saw this. Although it's festive, I'm like, oh my gosh, you could put those together, do a whole thing for It's a Wonderful Life as well for the holidays, because now that bell has a totally different meaning or use to me now when I see it. And I love how she paired two together. She used the colors. And then right here, if you can see these little holly pieces where they kind of look fragmented almost. Those are layers of that wreath, right? Because this wreath has many layers. It's got solids, it's got cutouts. And then she's got these little wispy pine pieces. And again, whether you're doing this from a brushstroke or modern, any kind of greenery is going to add some color. And then do you see these polka dots? Polka dots being the centers of the O's or the cutouts, or I'm assuming maybe she just uses a hole punch. But I love how she took a die that I see as a wreath in colors and completely transformed its use, which then sparked additional ideas specifically for the bell, where it's like, okay, metallic bells, wedding bells, so many things, church bells, just beautiful. And then Keisha is like, yeah, well, sit back and brace yourself because I'm going to wow you with my beautiful color palette choice. And Keisha, you did. Love the pink wood grain. Take a look at that, right? Running pink cardstock through Lumber 3D folder to create that pink wood grain. And look at these colors of purple and lavender and pink, and just, it's magic right there. Look at all those beautiful colors, that dark, rich. I know, holy wow is right, Tifa. I know, Lisa, right? It's just like you see the colors, especially when I only see that, it's like, come on. It's just, it's unbelievable. And I love just seeing how those colors are put to use and played. I also love this wreath holder, right? Because when you have that wreath on there, you're going to go in and put that in. I love the addition of that. I thought that was very, very clever to add that little strip of metallic to just make it look like it's hanging on a front door. Yeah, isn't that good? I know. See, Taylor's like, I love seeing this in other colors. And Taylor, because of these particular colors, I'm sure. But brilliant, right? A very cool way to see how, and that's why I wanted to put these back out there, because we can go, very traditional festive colors, and we just start kind of going into the whimsy side. And again, I hope you'll see that the shapes are what is creating this feel. You as the maker get to give it your personality, your touch, whether that is color or whether that is even a vintage look. I thought that this was a brilliant make.
That is such a beautiful shot right there.
So cool, right? So this one, Yuko created this. So, I mean, absolutely stunning. This is a vignette tray, right? So a wood tray. Then she went in and did stenciling all along the outer sides, right? The top and the two outer sides, because it's gonna sit down, so you're gonna leave that bottom flat. Through a stencil with some texture paste, ink that. Then we've got that great stamp trim, one big package. Colorize Bowtied. Look at that. I love her technique of putting on distress paint and sanding it off. Merry and Bright on a tag. So now we've got the tag, the frame tag, and then we have Merry and Bright using the positive. And then look at this background, right? Look at all of these the time. Look at those Yuletide wreaths in there, but it's all under acetate. So it's just a great box. This could be filled with snow. You could have other figures in there. You could, probably put tiny lights even behind this where it's shining forward, because you know me, I'm always thinking tiny lights. But I also love how she used the wood grain, right? She took that wood grain and she just cut planks and put that into the background, right? And you have them just kind of offset here and there, so it really has that handmade look of like a planked background or a planked floor. So even when you're doing those tree rings, ink it, cut it up, and reassemble it into the background. And I just think that the whole look, this whole make, absolutely beautiful, right? Imagine sitting it on a mantle. It's wide enough that you could put little battery operated tea lights on there. I mean, Yuko is phenomenal, right? Seeing all of that is just absolutely phenomenal, how a shape can can kind of take you on a journey, starting with that shape and then that shape, and oh, that works in there, and oh, I'll take that and just use a wreath, and oh, I'll just use a Santa, oh, I'll just use this element, oh, I'll change the color, oh, I'll create something with even smaller shapes. Because sometimes repetition really makes an impact when you're placing it down onto things. And I love, this is what I was talking about, having just a giant bow, right? You don't need to use those little L pieces in that set, but if you want a big bow for a make, like a tray, this is it. So amazing, isn't it? Wow.
So beautiful.
Oh my gosh, so much inspiration. We're just getting started. I know, I hope you guys brought snacks. 'Tis the season, right?
Snacks.
Definitely needed snacks. All right, we'll put these in there. I'm gonna get set up and get.
I'll help you.
How's everything going, Mario?
Going
Good?
They just like the Santa, he's so retro, but then he's so, I mean, how
So-
he just works together.
Yeah, just retro, so vintage. Amazing inspiration. Yeah, I agree, Michelle. There's so much inspiration, just like unbelievable. All right, so next we're going to get into Harvey. And Emma created these. Okay, I know, you could just look and just be like, oh, okay, so good, okay? Besides the fact that this really showcases, Harvey and how the packaging is, right? Where you can just make him into just a cute little toy soldier or little band, little musician. I love the 25, and I love, of course, the guard. I had to include a mustache, right? I know it's random in that die set, but I had to. But also you can see how well many of these dies are scaled to chapter 3. And I talked about chapter 3. I talked about it when we launched chapter 3 back in July. I said that, trust me, you're going to see these dies being used all the time, right? These are foundational dies. So we've already shown like really cool books and journals and all that. But for the season, for any of your makes, having a little envelope, a little coin envelope or a file folder, that's really where it's super important to remember those foundational pieces, because you can create so many things. And Emma created, just because these are cards in and of itself, right? You pair Harvey, you see that little bit of plaid back there. You don't have to use the whole panel. Cut the panel, cut the part that you want. You can do stitching. You can make these as detailed as you want. Take those greenery pieces and layer that just to have that little bit of greenery coming off the side. And then when you open this up, look at this great Starbucks card. Look at that Starbucks holder. I love just seeing those little pieces, right? Taking any die cut shape and cutting that, wrapping it around with a little tag, right? Because you have all those little tags in chapter 3. Using joy, taking the snowflakes from Twig and Stump, because now you have just great little snowflakes, backdrops from Ideology. But the fact that you have a die to cut that little folder from chapter 3 allows you to customize. And if this becomes your card, just think it's less real estate to fill, first of all, but what a great way to make a card that holds a gift card. And the gift card could be even stuck down with a glue dot too. You know, if you don't want to get all fancy with a holder, but you can definitely create that. Another great idea is just to take this little guy. You can see in the back, that's the switchlet of that seal, cutting it out of metallic. There's some stamps. Again, the greenery pieces, snip them apart, cut them, make them the size that you want. And then you have just that great little coin envelope. I love how she signed all of the tags, right? Using those little tag dies also in chapter 3, and then just making a coin envelope. Again, a gift card or cash or whatever. Maybe it's just a little note or something that you want to send. Look at the plaid in the back. I just noticed it when I set it down. Like the light hit it. I'm like, wait, that's not a stamp. That's just that layered plaid glued over and cut off. So probably just utilizing all of the plaid fragments to create backgrounds. And this one, I know Paul is going to like this because we've got that plaid that just has that offset, off register plaid. But there again, using that seal, right, of that switchlet. And I love, this is felt. You see his hat? It's fuzzy. So cute. It is. Fuzzy hat. So felt, flocked paper, because it's a thinlet, you can cut either or. Love those little greens. See, hardware heads. There they are. I knew they would have to appear, Emma. Beautiful. Little mica flakes. See, that's what I was saying about mica and glitter. All of these greens are done with rock candy, so when you see that little sparkle, it's just doing your cardstock. You can do it before or after you die cut it. It doesn't really matter. A little glossy accents or even collage medium and rock candy. But, I mean, Harvey is just, he's adorable. And he's Harvey because I wanted to name him Harvey. That is why. Because that's what I want to do, right? Harvey. Nico created these cards. from Harvey. So see, it could just be whatever colors, and I love how rich and vivid these backgrounds are, Nico, with that embossed pine branch and then just blended, right? Because you don't have to stay in the lines. If you just do ink blending, it can have that beautiful soft flare of color. But I like how he turned Harvey into ornaments, right? Simply by adding that little string over the top, okay? And it could be wire, it could be string, it could be twine. Also, I love the colors. I love the hint of metallic. So you can see here that many of the elements are just cut with metallic. These pieces are all inked. So you get that great watercolor wash up there, and then just some stamps in the background, right? Stamps from the professor, and how great is that? The flourishes. And then these little metallic stickers, these are ideology, right? So hello friend, make a wish, shine brightly, note to self. So a great seasonal card, even if it doesn't want it to be a Christmas card. It could be a wonderful seasonal card too, but I agree. I love the colors. They're cute. A great idea, again, for creating something different with a shape. Then this one, let's see, it's like Joy personalized all her makes. So Joy created this one, but I knew because it didn't shake. But look, it's got that little thinger, that little wiggly bit, little action wobbler. See, I remembered. Action wobbler. Love that. See how fun is that? Look at him. Just little Harvey zipping down. You can see the layered plaid. Love the Joy. I love the colors. I love that splash of yellow as well for a festive card, right? And then see, oh look, little thingery bit just wobbling around. See, I'm telling you, they need like a battery operated action wobbler. There you go. I'm putting it out in the universe where you don't even have to manually action. It's like
tiny lights for the tiny wobbler.
Just where you turn it on and the little thing just does a jig. It's so fun, so good. Or just some sort of card holder that just kind of just vibrates just to keep that little action wobbler going. So fun. You know me, I'm a 5-year-old. I love that, right? 5-year-old fueled by candy. That's my life. That is my life story. But again, you're seeing the personality of Colorize dye and Harvey. This one, Debbie Adams created this. Now, Debbie will, she's going to be sharing this. She did like a napkin, used him as a napkin ring, but the napkin didn't really show up too well when it arrived. So I just made it into a candy holder. No surprise there. But the idea here is that it could be many things. It could be a candy holder. It can go around the neck of a bottle of wine, right? Just slide it over the neck of a bottle of wine or booze if that's what you're giving, or just do a little candy pack. So here, look at this. She cut Harvey and just connected them, just glued them onto a band of paper, just cut a band of cardstock and stick them down to make that little slider, that little box. And then you can slide in candy sticks. This is just done in a little cello bag with some tulle. You can put in a straw. You can do little metallic bits. I tried to save as much of the elements that she did. I love that little pink feather she did. I also love just that little texture. That's just some, can you see that? It's like some soft little flocking stuff. It reminds me of sparkly fluff, but it's really, really fuzzy. Very cute. But see the colors of pink, so brilliant. So thinking of this idea as, again, a candy holder, a bottle topper, or just using it as a napkin ring if you're doing holiday celebrations or festivities, taking those dies and just building them. So cute, so adorable, right? Oh my gosh, so adorable. Speaking of adorable, Kath is adorable. Kath Stewart just is adorable, but this make, absolutely beautiful and just even more meaningful, but absolutely stunning of what she did, because I just thought it was a card. And then Paula was like, well, in the live, you'll need to open it. So it's like, I just know it's going to be magic because I can feel, I cheat in there. Here we can see Happy Christmas used with many things. So I'll just talk about the card front first. We've got Happy, then she's got Christmas as that label sticker. You can see in the back, there's a moon mask. So I love just that moon and how soft that is. These are stamps. This is an old stamp that I did. So it's got London in there. It's got Big Ben. Then we've got that little guard standing in the snow. So that already just gives it that wonderful Happy Christmas time. We've got this die. Remember this Iron Gate die? This was a Halloween die. I mean, look at how perfect this die is with Harvey. My gosh, I'm so glad I have it. Because I see that, I'm like, the scale couldn't be better. The way the gates are couldn't be better. I absolutely love this. But then when you open it, I mean, oh, okay, seriously. Goosies. Holiday wishes from London. Can you even? Seriously, look at them all just lined up. It just, yeah, it kind of chokes me up a little bit. Whew. All right, this is just beautiful. It's beautiful in every way. I love the background. I love the colors. I love everything. Ooh. I love everything about this. It's really a beautiful card. Okay, get it together. Beautiful, Kath. Just, that's a remarkable card. Simply stunning. So you can just see how you can incorporate shapes to just tell such a beautiful story, have a powerful message, and just create with your heart. And there's no doubt that is what she did, created with her heart. Because I think it is it's beautiful. Just amazing. Okay. All right, I'm good. Now we'll bring on some magic. So when I saw this make, I knew right away who made this without question, because channeling my love for Disney, and I talked about the inspiration, no doubt that Tammy B, fellow Disney lover, is like, okay, you just wait and see. And she didn't even warn me. When I saw this, I knew right away. But then when I started to look at the details, I was like, oh, Tammy, come on. So here we've got a vignette tray. We've got the beautiful plaid all the way around. But then on Main Street, they do the Christmas Fantasy Parade, and you see these guys marching down Main Street. I don't know if the light's going to pick it up, but if you look in between these guys, there is the 3D brick folder that mimics the bricks going down Main Street, USA in Disneyland. I don't know if you can see it. In real life, you can see the brickwork that goes all the way along. She's got these wonderful, wonderful soldiers walking down, the word believe, and then how she incorporated this. So she has the Yuletide wreath, then did it again, but then by cutting it in half, created this garland, right? You see what I mean? So there's the wreath, then you do the wreath again and cut it, and now you get two half pieces, because again, above Main Street, they always have this wonderful garland. And look at that tiny light work. I mean, that's going in and finding those little spaces to punch holes and individually insert the tiny lights through. But what a great effect that adds, right? Not even wrapped around, just absolutely beautiful. And this plaid, this is from the Ideology backdrops. I love it. But I love how she just has them layered, so they just gives that perspective. So when it's standing up, it's like they're marching down Main Street with the lights. Just, that is so cool, so magical, and just, it puts you right there. It has all the feels right there of just what that Christmas parade does, and just that little touch of magic there. And I love how she did all of those little soldiers going down. Brilliant make, Tammy. So cute. And even just the scale, right? How she's got them like close together in the back and a little farther apart and a little further apart here. It's forced perspective. And that's something that Tammy always does. We're inspired by Waltz. We are. And he really teaches us that, about how you can see things a little different. But the wraparound details, right? And adding those extra bows, beautiful. So beautiful, right?
So earlier Tammy said
Yes.
about Disney is going to be her dream job, and I said, yeah. You said the same thing, and I said, no, neither one of you should work at Disney, because then
The magic. Yeah, we just got to enjoy the magic.
Oh, you're probably right.
I agree.
But
Yeah, I know, but hey, we can still dream. That's it. The power of a dream is good. So Debbie created this card. So I love how she worked with Harvey, but also in a completely different way. So here she took the plaid. There you go. There you can see the plaid used. Gosh, there's black as the panel, right? Because remember, you got that outer edge. And then you've got a red layer. Then she's got a metallic layer. Then she has a white layer. And they just make such a beautiful plaid. I love that red sparkly joy. Double cut so it offsets in gold. These are the Ideology. I love these vignette frames. We don't have these anymore. They've been retired. But they're so lightweight that they're perfect on a card, right? You see that snowflake? I love those dies. I love the incorporation of old and new, and no surprise that Debbie does that, because that's what we do, right? That's what we do as makers, just take those. But look at his little personality. I love the little highlights. It's still felt. So many makers used felt, and whether you're doing soft felt, but you can also buy felt cardstock, right? That is a little bit more rigid. So if you're trying to cut something that is maybe too soft, try that, or flocked paper. That's also great. And that little bit of greenery, right? Whether you're using a die cut or a hole punch, and just the sparkle. So the colors with the metallic and that little sparkle, a great card, or again, this could be a framed gift. But no surprise why Harvey is so popular. Probably, I think it's the one die that that Sizzix shipped out or sold out right away. But I know it's out at retailers. But it's one of those that, like, just no doubt it's a favorite. Plus the versatility of it. I think that's the other thing to remember of what you can do with those designs. So beautiful, right? So beautiful. Love it. Love it. Look at that. Lights. Oh my gosh. All right. Okay, let's keep going. We still have more inspiration, guys. Absolutely amazing. So amazing. All right, so kind of moving into plaid, because I showed you what Debbie created with the plaid and Harvey. It's really fascinating from a side of makers when I get multiple cards, right? So Sharon created these 3 cards. I love this again because you're taking an idea and you're really exploring the possibilities. And the beauty of this, these are all done with metallics, right? So this is craft metallic cardstock, little glitter cardstock, or you can use deco sheets. So this, of course, is from the Christmas Cutouts. Another benefit to having that panel. Doesn't have to be an inset piece. It could just be a cut framed piece. But I love seeing those metallic layers. I love the splattering. And you can see just the change of color, right? Change of color palette. So that one's peace. You've got love here. See those colors? Oh, and then joy. Look at that. The blue and the purple. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So having these, great use. And people go, I don't really use metallic cardstock much, or glitter cardstock, or 'tis the season. 'Tis the season to pull out all the stops and just go in and create these colors. But this is what I love about the metallic craft stock. And I talked about that with the gold. It is different than the original. You can still use the original. I'm not saying that at all. If you have the original paper packs, right, those pads, you can definitely use that in the confections. But the newest one that we did, we actually went thicker. So it's a 100-pound craft. So it's much thicker in the metallic. But use what you have. Use that stuff up and then, you know, go into the thicker stuff if you're still interested in metallics. But beautiful card, Sharon. I love just the simplicity of the metallics, that little sparkle. And I think that added metallic splatter, yeah, that does it for me. Very cool. All right, I'm going to put these here because I'm also going to bring this one in. Keisha created this one. Look at that, Keisha. Look at those colors, right? Absolutely cool. And it's a shakety shake. It's a shaker. So here you can see just kind of that transitional rainbow of colors going on that top layer, right? From that pink into orange into yellow, and then the bottom layer going from green into the teal, and then layered over the top. Turn into a shaker card, right, with little sequins inside and little beads. That merry and bright stacked up, just using the positive. And then there is the bow, the small bow from the Colorize Yuletide, right, from that wreath. So that's what I was saying. These little accessories are just, they're the perfect little touch when you're like, oh, I just need to add this. Yes, you can do it out of ribbon, but I think how beautiful is that? And the plaid really just opens up all the possibility. You're seeing it in definitely more of a festive way, but just imagine seeing it all year long, especially, again, springtime, Easter plaid. I mean, I've already gone through all the seasons, but it's a great way. And I love the use of it, right? I love seeing it as a background. I love seeing 1 layer, 2 layers, 3 layers, and then even seeing how much open space is in this plaid to create a little shakety shake. So beautiful card, Keisha. Just cool. So inspiring. And then we're going to see what you can do with a bow, right? What you can do with a bow. Now, Tifa created this. Tifa, I knew it was going to be perfect for envelopes. I just knew it. So I'm glad you created an envelope with it. So here you can see a little modern festive on the back. Ideology collage paper as the substrate, kind of adhered to a thick cardstock. And Tifa, if you don't, you should follow all the makers because they show so much. I know Natifa always shows like the process. It's sped up, but you can see the process just watching, and it's amazing how many layers can go down on a make. But I love seeing this colorized Bowtied. See what I mean? You could take an envelope and it's a gift, a box and it's a gift. Use any element and the bow itself becomes the focal point. You can add some metallic elements, you can do stamps, you can do rubs, you can do a tag, you can do anything you want. And look at all that pen work. I just noticed that when the light hits it. I love that, Tifa. Look at the metallic pen around just the holly and the berries for the collage. I know, Paul's like, man, I wish we would have printed in metallic. I know, but look at that detail work. See, details matter. This is the gift. right? What you put it with, it makes it even more special. But that is the gift right there, the magical part of creating. And look at this texture. So this is, I'm guessing, embossing glaze, because it looks like distress embossing glaze. That wonderful shine, that little pit, because to me, it gave this bow a whole different texture. You've got metallic cardstock, and then glaze on that. So good. So good. Zoe in Italy created this. Just some little gift tags. And I think having these tags layered, this could be a card in and of itself, right? Where these tags are layered up, and that could become that. Or it's just a gift of tags where you're gifting it to someone saying, here you go, here's this tag set that I want to gift to you. But I like how you can take those 3 sizes of tags, tie them together where it just looks like a tree. I love the theories from chapter 3, just seeing that die cut. But look at all the elements, right? We've got the bow, little crackle on there, little metallic, little clipping sticker. And then you can see modern festive in there with the pine cones and the branch. Again, having little collage elements, some snowfall grit paste in there. There you go. And then more clippings. And then at the bottom, the poinsettia, the pine, and that element. And the stitching details. So yeah, whatever your inspiration is. This, of course, could be the card. Probably most likely that is the card. But I love the idea of reminding you that your creativity is a gift to someone else that just doesn't make. Where it's like, here you go. And they're like, wow, I can put that gift tag on this. I can put this gift tag on this. I can put this gift tag on this. But you've already gifted them a card. So clever idea of stacking those together in scale. Very cool. I'll probably spread these out a little bit. And then we have this panel that Paula created, because again, it could just be art. That is your gift. We're all decorating. I love decorating. So of course, decorating for the season, taking the square vignettes, adding paper, and then adding Bowtied to make it just look like a package that could hang on a wall. I love that it comes out from the wall. I also love these additional pieces. So take a look at how she used Bowtied, where we've got the colorized bow. She's got those little ribbon tails going here, and then this goes wide. And then I love how she kind of inverted this, so it goes from wide and then wide to skinny again, all the way around, or skinny into wide. That is cool. Very clever. Again, because these are cut right here. So, and I like how just the colors kind of flip around. And I love, look at the little bit of mistletoe there. That is just an ideology backdrop, right? That holly paper, and then you've got holly jolly. But doing one of these, or even a series of these, hanging them on a wall, putting them on a mantle, they're so lightweight that they would stick up with just a little tack, a little nail, or even some command adhesive, because these are much lighter weight than most people think when it comes to wood. And I think even lighter than canvas panels that often have heavier wood planks, but I like how thick they are. And when you get a set of vignettes, especially the boxes, right, besides the scale is smaller, they go a little shallower. So on the wall, they kind of stick out different depths. So really, I mean, a clever use for bows, right? You see that and it's like, it's just a bow. What could it be? It could be everything, and used so many different ways. So good. So good. All right. Then we're going to get into Twig and Stump. And again, no surprise that the makers just had a good time storytelling with these guys. So Emma created this. I love this panel. See, because you have so many different characters now, you understand the die set. You can add as many characters to your scene as you want. They could be facing each other. Just you set the stage. But I love how she's got winter wishes at the bottom. We've got the tree. You can see the background panel. There you can see one of those labels with 25, the little greenery, the texture paste there, that little ledge. So these are the etc. trims with some mica, some baubles with some color that mimic the tree, little mirrored star. I mean, so fun, so sparkly, and so textured. So this could be something that becomes a decor piece, lean against the mantle, could go on anything. But the idea of taking a die and telling a story with it is fun and whimsical at the same time. It's great. And fun and whimsical. Anita created this whole scene. And interesting how she paired retro with Twig and Stump, because again, it creates that forced perspective. He's so big in kind of the foreground. He's like, hey guys, how's it going? They're like, oh, all good here. Woohoo. Yeah. See? But even more so is this is all done in layers of felt. So if you take a look at Retro Santa, he's done in felt. not quite the scratch and sniff, but the touch and feel. These guys all cut in felt, right? The tree all done in felt, and I love just the texture of that, right? Gives it a soft, fun look. But you see, it's like, woohoo! And I love the winter wishes, how she created those little hang tabs on the top for the sign, the snowflakes in the back, and then the tree with the star, and of course, Twig in his little metallic bucket, and Stump just being the cheerleader. But a great scene, again, a great story to take that die and put that in front of those guys just to give it that whole, again, perspective. It's just fun.
Twig and Stump, man, they're so funny.
They're so funny. And this, like, you know, it's like the makers are reading my mind, because I just thought, I think it'd be so cool if people really like this. These guys are just hilarious, dressed up or not dressed up. So Jen created this card, and I love the fact that she didn't dress them up. No hats, no scarves, and they're hilarious, right? Seeing their little look and how she really kind of took the circles that would normally be ornaments or snowballs and just made like these ginormous little buttons going down. They're so, see, it's a whole whimsical take on Twig and Stump, because to me they look like completely different characters now, because that's the one that would normally like look up, but see what I mean? If you just point the carrot down, he just looks down, and he's got a great, I love the whole personality that these have, Mario.
Cool.
They're super fun. And just all the snowflakes in the back, again, the wonderful color, that turquoise and teal. It is hilarious. It's so fun, right? You totally get the idea. And just that little inking, how they're layered. So you don't always have to dress them up. You can certainly build a scene, but really funny to see them, you know, without their garb, right? But I think the idea of adding these, these dramatic little buttons sure is fun. Sure is fun. All right. So Yuko created this, right? This is an old school assemblage clock. So if you have a clock, this is a great way that you can use the clock. If you have the new clock, you could also do this in the curio clock, but I love how she did the whole outside, super festive, textured, white, very sparkly, right? Added some greens, but then let's see if the light, there we go. Oh, there we go. He's back there, right? So there's tiny lights in there. It's a beautiful little light up. So she's got the tree that lights up. It's a perfect little night light. So Twig's back there, and then she's got Stump out here, out in the snow, using that snowfall grit paste, but what a charming little make. There's so much detail. See, the camera is not, yeah, I'm getting too much glare. But inside, and Yuko's going to share pictures, I'm sure. Nah, that didn't help. Thanks though, Mario. Yeah, but I'm sure you'll see. But inside, it's actually covered in a brick texture fade. So all the way around the clock is brick. And then you've got words stamped in the back with the lights. And yeah, there you go. I'll just bring it a little closer. There. Oh, that worked. Thanks. There we go. Mario's outside. He shut off our ring light, our daylight. So now you can see. Look at how great that is with the tree lit up. See the difference those tiny lights make? You got Twig back there decorating the tree. You can see the brickwork. Isn't that cool? Wow. And all those words in there. And then you've got Stump. Just really, really cool. So excellent, excellent make. Beautiful, Yuko. Love. See, just whatever you want to put it in. Whatever you want to put it in, whatever you want to create. You just do. You just do. All right. So Tammy B created this, and I've got to say, when I was putting these out and sorting these, I touched this and I was like, what? And it took me a second, and I'm serious. I'm not being dramatic. It took me a second because it feels so weird. I thought this was like just a wood box until I realized this is a vignette with that tree ring paper. I can't describe it. I'm sure this is craft stock that's been sanded because it's very soft. That's all I can tell you. Like, the box feels super soft, but take a look at how that craft stock, I'm guessing she debossed in a color, right? Maybe a little archival, maybe a little oxide because there's a little color in there. But then because it is craft stock, right? Not the metallic, but the color, it just kind of brought up this little fuzz, but also this wonderful worn look. And she did all the way around, even the edges. See, that's why, like, all these little edge pieces Tammy cut also out of this paper. So it really makes this box look like it's just done out of a whole different type of wood than the regular vignette box would. Isn't that cool? So inspiring to do that as well. So we got Twig and Stump getting a little tangled in the tiny lights. Remember, for Christmas time, we do tiny lights in multicolor. They're only out at Christmas. The everyday tiny lights are clear, But I love these colorful lights, right? Really cute. And just the winter wishes, again, the whole story of the tree. And I'm sure many of us can relate when you're getting out the lights. It just seems that, you know, you're more tangled up in the lights than anything else. So I love that. I love just how they're just kind of all wonky hanging out. And they also just cast such a cool light wherever you want, because, you know, you string them around, you twist, you turn. Because they're so light and thin, yes, their little arms could hold them up, right? But you can also tack that wherever you want them to hold and then wrap it around the tree and just leave them hanging out like that. That's really a cute, fun story. And that winter wishes, just, it's adorable.
Those
it is.
tiny lights are giving me all kind of ideas.
Oh no. Oh boy. I can only imagine. I can only imagine what we're in for. It's going to be tiny. It's going to be a tiny light season, I'm sure.
I think so.
Yeah. So Kath created this. I love seeing Twig and Stump, and even just the ideas for these circles, right? We saw Jen use all those circles going up the body, and look how Kath just like created this whole little strand of beads, and she did glossy accents on each one. So it's like doing a little cranberry garland around the tree, right? And then just did a little pen work, a little line work to connect those. But I love the addition of the glossy accents. You can see that pine branch just debossed onto the tag. I love that she just used the word winter. I love the colors, of course. So we got winter wishes on that tag. But this tag, of course, is a card. So you don't just have to do a tag. You can. I don't want to say just like, oh, come on, it's just a tag. But tags are cards, and I don't know why people get really hung up on what to do with the tag. You've seen tags are cards, tags are garlands, tags are books, tags are enclosing pieces. There's so many different elements that you can do with a tag. And it's a card, even if you want to do a traditional card, right? A square card, a rectangular card. But there again, I love the little berries. Now you've got, see, he doesn't need boxes now because you got two stumps there. But see, by giving those little personalities, they have a whole little story. You know, where this guy's like a little bit higher. Can you stand on your tippy toes? And he's like, I don't have toes. You know, just the whole cute thing of storytelling with design and art. But I love the colors. I love the soft color. And I really like just how playful these cards are. See snowmen, you think like blue winter, and then you've got just great color and just great fun in that. All right, we've got another Twig and Stump. Kathy created this, another scene with tiny lights. See, so different and so unique and so cute. Look at the plaid that Kathy did, right? So this has a little bit of metallic plaid going around the outside of that box, right? Really frames it up well. Using the Colorize Yuletide, but not a wreath at all, just cutting up different pieces and overlapping them, using a little mica stain, a little rock candy. Really charming. And then I like kind of the whole scene that Kathy built by using those boxes and kind of having him in the foreground, because this is all layered. There you go. You can kind of see that with the blocks, but you could see kind of layered in the front, and then you've got the boxes there. So again, adding these other elements is going to give you different level, different heights, where I think they're having a little bit better luck decorating than maybe these guys did, but just fun and whimsy. And I like how people use their winter wishes so many different places. So really cute, Kathy. See, told you. You see that as a wreath, you're like, I don't want the wreath. But then when you see it all cut apart, you're like, that is really lush, yummy greenery. And it certainly is. So those are all the inspiration for Twig and Stump. We've got a few more and we'll wrap this up, but just amazing. Amazing to see all the different looks and feels and uses for those characters. Totally just doesn't surprise me how fun and cute and unique they are, right? Good fun. Twig and Stump for the win. Yep. Okay, just a few more. Let's go into these pieces. So Juliana created this little tag series, I was going to say, but they're shaker tags. So, you know, that's my love language, a little shakety shake. But a very cool idea just to have tags. Take one of those frame tags right there, cut that out where you've got that deboss. These are stamped and splattered. I love the color. And then going in and using that bold text, putting a little acetate, and then you've got shaker tags. So again, great for gifts, stockings, wine bottles, whatever. But this is kind of, you know, this is where we can get 200, Mario. Just do some ink backgrounds, cut them out. This is kind of my repetition of something magical. Although I'm really not, I know, but it's got shaky stuff, and shakety shake I'm not really the best at. I always get some leakers, but
we'll cut them off and send them to Joy.
There we go. There you go. Joy, remember that year that we were here with Joy? I don't know how many shaker tags she made.
A lot.
Because we were inspired by,
many.
she saw something at World Market. She's like, oh, I want to make those. And then it was like, you know.
She did.
She did, but it was like, you know, $200 later, you found enough stuff to make the tags that were $10, but they were hand done. They were little pine wreaths. I remember that, Joy. She was here. We were making for quite a while, but a great idea for using those frame tags. And of course, with bold text, it just makes a really fun way to incorporate things. Stacy created this card. Really happy to see this kind of card as well. That, you know, sometimes when you're creating, people want just something that's a little bit more, I don't know, minimal, shabby chic, saying that you can take your pieces and just giving a little touch of color is often perfect. And whether that's done with a little bit of pencil, right, to add that little detail, a little stamping. But what I really loved is just this kind of collection of tags on top of the card as the card, right? So these are just stuck down, taking that little frame tag. I love seeing the pine going around, but sticking with just those colors, that little green and that little gold, especially where it has wishing you peace and joy, because it is a winter card, right? So I think it's just a beautiful idea of taking a shape and making that kind of your focal point, but adding other pieces to it. Just unbelievable. So beautiful. Vicky created these. So here she took the frame tags, and they're the pine patterns, right? You can see how fun those are, just debossed in there. So you've got the deboss color and that. If you're working on these, you could put these inside the tag at the same time. So if you've got your ink tag, you can lay that down. You can ink up the pine pattern, lay that down, and run that through, because it's going to cut and do all of your deboss color, or you can do them separate, completely up to you. But I like that little tag series of the ink, the little to and from, that's a stamp, and then putting them in that little chapter 3 envelope where you cut a window, right? Because if you have all these little tags, right, you've got these different patterns, because they're all different. So you can use different patterns for each one, adding your ink. Then when you place that through, the little to and from shows up in the window. So again, a great little gift. You're going to a party or just meeting friends. Just really clever. And then Paula created this. Paula created a lot of gift ideas. So thanks, Paula, for this, because she's like, I don't really know, but you know, I want to work with this. And then once she started, she's like, once I started, I couldn't stop. So use what you want. I love all of them. I think it's really great. So this is using the switchlet. So the switchlet it's a folder with a die that you can switch out the shape of the outer cut blade. But I love how she used the new wood grain. So this is the Distress wood grain that we did for Christmas. It's that two-tone. You see how subtle that is, how beautiful. So you don't have to do any inking to the wood grain itself. There she just inked the little pine pattern. That's deboss. I love just those little rubs on there. And then we've got the little 25 from chapter. So cute, right? From chapter 3. So great idea for tags, using those little colors, using those little layered numbers, and using, I think these are stamps. I don't think these are rubs. I think these look like stamps. Let me just, yeah, they are. They're stamped. Whoa, P, you're a clean little mini stamper. Mine would be much more messy. But very cute. Cute idea for using the pine patterns on, again, a small little tag, because it doesn't have to be something massive. It doesn't have to be big. Then she created the idea, again, of creating cards. Creating cards using the folder from chapter 3. And again, because the folder is also framelit, it's open, you can put that pine pattern in there. I love the little splatter. I love the addition of stamps. Then when you open it, you've got pattern paper, a little Starbucks card that you can stick down with a glue dot, a little piece of cardstock that you can write your holiday greeting in. But what a great way to use that file folder also as gift card holders. All right, same thing here. And you can use the front or the back. So here you can see that you've got that reveal, or that could be the front because you wanted to incorporate something else. You've got that deboss. See, these are just cool. They look like they've been stitched on there. I love that. The little seal, the stamp choice, and then again, when you open, you've got your gift card and your sentiment way. And you know, the other nice thing obviously is going in and you've got your wallpaper scraps, and then finding gift cards that have, you know, a very similar aesthetic to your pattern paper. So you can customize it that way. I think that's really, really fun and clever. Another fun and clever way, again, still using the idea of the folders, but stitching them up to create pockets. So here it's just the folder done. stitched up the sides. Again, you have that pine pattern. See that? This is where you can just make these. A little stamping. The splatter does it for me too. I see your comments. I agree. The splatter is so good. And then you've got just a great way that you could put in, you know, maybe it's one gift card, maybe it's several, right? Somebody really loves Starbucks. That'd be me. I love these. Yeah, truth. These gift cards, they belong to me. I've collected gift cards from Starbucks for a lot of years. I wish I collected more. Easy. I love them. I literally have a ginormous Ziploc bag of Starbucks gift cards from all over the world. I just love them. And see, they come in handy where Paula's like, I can get gift cards. I'm like, oh, I got you covered. Which is why I had matching gift cards for pretty much any paper she's going to throw at me. I'm like, yeah, don't worry about that. But how cute, right? Great way that you can just make a cool gift card holder. Speaking of gift cards, I'll show you my favorite one in my collection, because since you didn't ask, I'll show it to you. This is circa 2016.
Oh, look at that.
How cute is that?
I've never seen that.
Oh my gosh, I love this. I do. It's my favorite.